Stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. All right. First order of business will be the approval of the minutes. Has everybody read the minutes? Are there any additions, corrections? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written. Commissioner Miller makes a motion to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion on the minutes? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Next will be the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions?
I'd like to bring up squatters' rights. For North Dakota, we have a lot of empty farmsteads around, and if somebody moves in, what's the property owner's course of action to take to get them out of there?
Let's say we'll probably just put that at the end right before we do the miscellaneous.
Okay.
Since, sounds to me like that might be more of a Joe or a Gary's
Right.
question as far as the law on that, so we'll just kind of tentatively put that at like 11:45 or, well, probably noon or something. We'll see how it goes, but we'll put that towards the end, okay?
I was gonna ask about, that bridge back by the creek, if we could talk about that, the one we did a couple of years ago, the status is on that.
What bridge by, you mean that one, you mean out by Larry Lyers?
Yeah.
Deion Sanger? Oh, okay.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, I mean, if anything, just, I would say Skylar's probably gonna have an update on that or something, or, I know the last thing that I remember talking about is, they had to do the bat study, and the bat study couldn't start till at least April, so I would assume that that's gonna be happening this month or something. And nothing could happen until that breeding bat study had gotten done, so, I don't know if there's any updates since then, I haven't heard anything, but,
then the other thing would be out here in 83, that, did anything get done with that? The what?
oh, with the Evenson?
Evenson.
Okay, we can, we can put that under old unfinished business there, so. All right, are there any other additions to the agenda? Not hearing any, motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Everly to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Any more discussion on the amended agenda? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Agenda approved. First item on the agenda would be the county vehicle policy for GPS tracking. Anybody got any updates or?
Commissioner Materi had requested another bid, and I got one from GPS Insight out of Arizona.
Okay.
There are no local businesses that I could find, so they're national, so. On the reverse side is their proposal. And that includes, like the Verizon proposal, stuff that I don't really see that we need. More vehicle maintenance reminders and so forth, that our road guys do a pretty good job, I'd say, with maintaining our vehicles, so.
Okay.
There's something else for you to ponder.
Anybody else have any input or questions, concerns?
Is this basically for 5 vehicles then?
Yeah,
So do you think you really need something for 5 vehicles? I mean, isn't it just the one going to Bismarck, is that the only one we really have? Maybe we better off just buying a little pickup if we're worried about gas mileage and everything else.
The only complaint you're hear on the commission, you're gonna hear about roads and you're gonna hear about this. I never heard about this, but the people talk, and it's not just certain guys that are complaining. It's a lot of people that I talk to or call a guy about that pickup going to Bismarck. That's the big question
So why
about
don't we
it.
just,
And that's a lot of the problem, like we discussed, we should talk about the problem and resolve the problem before we do this. So I'm open to discuss it, and I think on page 48 of them, right or wrong in the handbook, it states about using county vehicles,
Right.
and taking them home.
well, I
And if we
mean,
wanna comply by policy, I'd say that's the thing to address. And keep that pickup from going to Bismarck at night, even though I know there's certain guys that are okay with it. I think it should end, and if they're gonna pick up a part, even though they don't wanna pick up the part, that's what you got hired for as a superintendent, and nothing against Skylar. Pick it up and submit a bill on the mileage. If it's 2 miles, submit the bill, if it's a big thing.
I don't think there'd be anything wrong with that, if he's willing to submit a bill for his mileage, but,
And I think a lot of this problem would end.
and if it's cost of fuel, I mean, get people to pick up that run cheap, just to run for parts or something.
We got 5 common carriers coming down, and I don't believe I farm too as you guys do. I don't need parts every day from Bismarck or Aberdeen.
No, I wouldn't either,
That's my opinion. And I think to alleviate a lot of this headache is just,
but I don't know if it's just an issue with some people that are worried about it, or if it's really an issue or not, I don't know.
they're concerned about it.
I mean, I can see if you got a, you know, a big pickup with a lot of gas, takes a lot of gas mileage for something like that, but,
Well, it's depreciation on the vehicle. People, it bothers the people in the county.
yeah, I know,
We got a guy at CHS that's hired Pat with CHS. He lives in Bismarck. He drives down every day with his personal vehicle, every day. He doesn't have a CHS truck. At Tegra, they use trucks, but they don't pay out dividends to the patrons.
but, yeah, I know, I understand that, I mean, I have nothing like that either, but, I mean, if he has to drive, if he doesn't wanna pick up, if he submits a bill, which would be fine, you know,
Yeah.
but if he doesn't wanna do that, to drive all the way down, get in the pickup, drive all the way back, that don't make sense either.
Buying a small pickup just to save gas doesn't really,
Well, but I mean, just to
because,
do all this stuff now, thousands of dollars,
this proposal, yes,
you know, that wouldn't,
right.
it's gonna cost us a bunch of money there too, and what are we doing it for, just for one vehicle?
Yeah, it seems
You'd
like,
have to do it in the county trucks, I'd say, within maybe not in all the other departments. The people that question it are in the road department. And it's not, I don't believe it's a personal vendetta against Skylar at all. It's just the fact that this pickup is going to Bismarck, Mandan, wherever they live. And I guess it's been something that's been done over the years with the superintendents. But when you read page 48 in the handbook, they talk about county policy. Just because they got away with it years ago doesn't mean it should continue.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
Maybe I'm wrong on that, but you guys can be out. Just
I
think
agree.
about it, you know?
I agree with that, but, you know, I don't know.
But what?
I said I agree with you there, but that, you know, it's just, we spend thousands of dollars to have a GPS and something just for one vehicle that we're worried about.
Well, just for one vehicle would be a lot cheaper than,
Does it make sense to do that? I don't know.
Let's eliminate the problem. Let's stop the truck going to Bismarck, Mandan
We could do that.
overnight. For the, what, 3 nights, 4 nights?
Ask Skylar if he could bring it down with his personal vehicle and then just charge his mileage or whatever it is for that, I don't know.
You know, most of the parts that they pick up, I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, you can
Put him in.
question me, but most of them I'd say are Johnson Trailer, Butler, John Deere, IH, and it's all in that corridor coming off the interstate. What is that, maybe half mile? A mile, let's say a mile and a half, in the circle,
Yep,
down and back. So that I'll be generous at 85 cents a mile, and I don't know what the state rate is, what is it?
it's not.
It's gotta be around 60, right?
It's, I think
60.
Yeah.
60, yeah.
I know.
So when you look at that, guys, the cost of that,
would be a lot
and
less.
say I'm the superintendent, and I say I don't wanna use my vehicle, but I won't use my vehicle to go get a bag of bolts, come on, guy.
I know, but some people probably won't, but,
Well, then, they're hired, whoever it is, if it's me as a superintendent, then I got a problem.
yeah.
We got 5 county carriers that come down there every day. You can ship it, and I guarantee you the shipping is gonna be a lot cheaper than depreciation.
Yeah.
on that vehicle.
That employee could be doing something else.
And doing something else.
Right.
I think, and I won't pinpoint it, I won't accuse anybody of wrongdoing because I can't prove it. But I worked in a lot of places and a lot of people take advantage of certain things if they can.
Well, they all do.
That's just the nature of the animal on earth.
We'll have to deal where we do have a policy that states that the vehicle shouldn't be used for stuff like that. That's, you know, unless we're gonna change the policy or something, we need to abide by what our policy says.
It's different, the sheriff, whatever.
Right.
That's a different deal. I've had it, they say, well, what if we get called in a flood? Come on, guys. We've got cell phones, we've got laptops, whatever. You contact Donnie, he lives in town here with the road department. Go out and put a couple of barricades up before I get down there. Problem solved.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna check that same road going back every night. I don't believe that. Every night, I don't believe that. But that's my opinion, we'll go from there, you guys.
Well, I just think before we spend thousands of dollars a year on something like this, we might as well, like you said, find out what the problem really is.
That's why we're talking about it, we talked about it the last meeting, let's try to solve it before we do this, well, let's solve it.
Well, maybe we can ask Tyler if he has to pick up parts, if he wants to.
Well, it was said before, and he said, I will not use my personal vehicle. When I first got on the board, I heard it with my own 2 ears, I got, come on.
Oh, we could
He
ask,
got hired as a superintendent, you know?
and ask him again. I mean, his deal was he was supposed to move down here too to begin with,
Yeah.
so, I mean, that hasn't happened, so.
It's in the minutes that it was agreed upon.
Well, there were several things that we gave him the extra raise to cover his mileage
Yeah.
here and stuff like that, and, you know.
Nothing against Skylar.
Yeah,
I read it in the minutes and that's the way it was. I questioned him. When did I come on board? December, I questioned about it. He was preparing to replace. January, I asked about it. That one fell through. I'm working on another one. January. February came about. Then I got it coming back. Well, there's other people that commute back and forth from other counties. And it's all okay. That's what, Burley to Morton, Morton to Burley? And nothing's ever been done. Granted, then I hear, well, he sacrificed during the storm and blah, 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 that he stayed at the Hazelton shop. That's great, that's part of being a superintendent, you know?
Yeah.
He could have gotten a motel room here in Linton, and nothing against Skylar, I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
But just,
Yeah,
I think it's gotta end
I guess,
to eliminate the feedback from the public to me, or to you guys.
I didn't know he wouldn't take his personal deal, but what's the big deal doing that? I mean, if you get paid for it, whatever.
What's the big deal? So you throw a bag of bolts in the back floor.
Right,
Pay a mileage, yep.
And it costs us $2.50 for mileage. And it costs us a heck of a lot more with that pickup running back and forth and depreciation.
right, yeah. I would think that'd be reasonable if he agrees to that, but I don't know, I can't see why he wouldn't, but.
I drove back and forth from the power plant, from Bismarck to Coal Creek, Underwood, every day. And I didn't get a nickel.
Well, that was,
You walked through the chain link fence, you went into the shack, you punched the time clock, that's when your pay started.
yeah,
You punched out, you left, you walked to the chain link fence, you got in your vehicle, you drove home to Kmart, and that's where you split.
well,
The carpool.
anybody that's got a job, no matter where you live, if I live down here and want a job in Bismarck, well, I gotta just drive.
I just drive. Look at Mark Sher, he drives every day
Right,
with his personal vehicle.
yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is, but I'm just saying for him to come down here and hop and pick and go back up, that
That
don't make
would,
sense.
that wouldn't make no sense, no.
But that doesn't happen every day, guys.
No,
Still.
but there's, you know, there's a remedy other than having to put GPS in the vehicle, and we just gotta find what that remedy is, I don't know.
Well, I'm just-
Laws on the books, or your rules.
I'm just thinking, if we got GPS for all these vehicles, what are we concerned about, you know what I mean?
Some say that, you know, it's gonna hurt your spot, you're checking on the guys. I talked to guys that work for UPS today, they got tracking devices on every one of those
They know where
vehicles.
they're at all the time.
And it doesn't hinder what they're doing,
Yeah.
it probably motivates what they're doing because there's a eye in the sky looking at them and watching them, so they're efficient. I think FedEx does the same thing.
But we're not doing it to watch,
No.
we're not getting, one for every vehicle, that's the thing.
No, you did it with Ken Electric, didn't you?
Yeah,
I'd say MDU probably has, it. Maybe not here, but I'd say the MDU Headquarters is doing it,
I
or
would
main
say,
office.
I would just say we ask Skylar if he minds getting, minds getting parts and we just pay him mileage to see once what
Pay mileage.
Okay,
That's, yeah,
so the big thing here, so with GPS tracking, we're just basically gonna table that, or are we just gonna kind of just agree that we're gonna go a different route with something else here? Is that kind of the consensus, or what do we?
what are we gonna resolve, what are we gonna do? We talked about it the last meeting, that we're gonna try and find a solution to the problem.
Yeah, well, I
So
mean,
we're
if you guys-
discussing the solution, so what are we gonna do?
Well, then make a motion if you wanted to solve it. I mean, I don't know what you guys keep asking, waiting for the silver bullet. You guys have the ability to make motions, or table it and come up with an alternative and do it at the meeting. I mean,
Well, I think we should.
when you say we and then you expect me to come up with everything all the time, I listen to you guys talk here, you all have concerns, you're all grown men, make a damn motion. Otherwise,
I'll make a motion that
okay,
we comply by the handbook, and we put a stop to the county vehicle going back and forth to Bismarck Mandan during the work week period. And if any parts need to be picked up, that they're aware, pick them up on the way out of town and coming back to Linton and submit a bill on mileage.
it's a pretty wordy motion. It's a pretty wordy motion. I mean,
Well, you just said we should make
I
motions,
should,
now you're
but
making fun of the motion.
well, because you made it 14 sentences long. This is the point I'm trying to get at.
Would you like to help me with the motion then?
Well, if your motion, you don't need to make a motion to comply by the policy book, just comply by the policy book. Come in and tell Skylar that that's how it's gonna be. If he's gonna disagree, then he's either not gonna do what he says he's gonna do, and then something has to get done with that. Or he's just gonna go about to driving every day and you pick up your parts however you wanna pick them up. I'm confused with some of the situation here, because if you have a policy and you wanna enforce it, you don't have to make a motion to enforce the policy book, you just enforce the policy book. So if that's what you wanna do, then that's what we should do. And same thing with this conversation of all of this stuff. Make something happen then, that's fine. But to rehash it and rehash it and rehash it, and then say, what are we gonna do when, I mean, you have just as much authority in this table as anybody else, so bring it up at the meeting, make a motion, but I don't really understand your motion to follow the policy handbook. Just suggest that we do it, and, I mean, we're either gonna do it or we aren't. So you either gotta follow the handbook, or if you wanna make some other addition to the handbook, that's fine, but the one thing I have concerns with is you have social services, we have people that work outside of the county now because of our zoning, they have vehicles they need to take home or do stuff, how do we sort that out from the handbook from the road department? Same with the sheriff's department, all of that, I mean, you can't just make blanket statements and then let it go. Like, if you're gonna follow the policy book, then everybody's gotta follow the policy book, like, that's the point, that's the reason why it's always kind of been an issue, because every department has its own needs. If you don't wanna have the road department doing that, then we need to fix something with the road department specifically then. And you're gonna have to do it in the policy book or something, so, go ahead.
Can I raise my hand?
Yeah.
I can speak on social services
Mhm.
if you want. Our employees do not take a vehicle home. It's in the policy. We do not.
You do not do.
No. I took the county vehicle home one time, and that was when we had the protest here and we didn't want the vehicle here. So I offered to take the county vehicle home just to get it out of here a couple years ago when we had the protest. Our employees do not take those zone vehicles home. We have one in Ellendale, we have two here in Linton. They're housed here. We may be here at 6 o'clock in the morning to get
To
it.
get it.
Yep, and I have an employee that comes from Bismarck every day. She does not take a vehicle.
It doesn't drive back and forth.
She drives her own vehicle back and forth.
So then guess
Or what
that, well, no, that's fine, cause I was understanding that there were, I mean, I'm not saying all the time, there were scenarios, but if that's the case, then, well, then if you wanna enforce the policy on the policy book, then that's the way it's gotta be done. And if he doesn't wanna follow the policy, then a decision's gotta be made there too.
Just like a lot of other laws that are on the books, but then we make new laws to, well, just enforce the old laws. Or rules, or however it is, we're not doing that.
Okay. So I guess what we'll do is when Skylar comes in, you guys wanna bring that up? I mean, if
I
that's the
think it
policy,
needs
then
to
that's
be,
the policy, what's
yeah.
happening?
The policy is the policy, so.
And I
And if
thank you
there's-
for saying something.
Well, if there's gonna be an alternative to that policy or some kind of scenario, then that's where you need to go forward with some kind of a logbook or something, if there is an absolute need or something of that line, but then it's gotta get created, you know, instead of just talking about it, so. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Next item would be the Evenson property, if there's any updates. I did get a hold of Jared Reese, and, I don't know, he just kinda said he was too busy at the moment, so, cause he's pretty booked up, so. When I asked him to get back to me on just any kind of a quote, and told him that he can kinda choose a timeline as long as it's something reasonable, and didn't seem like he was really very interested, so. I guess that'll be back to trying to search for somebody to clean the property, I guess. Which isn't very easy to do, so. There is a different owner of Trash Incorporated, I guess, unless they would be interested in doing that. It's not Tony Nagel no more, so.
That's true, I called Tony, I didn't call him anymore.
Right, that's what I mean, now that there's a different owner to it, that might be something.
You wanna call them, Joe?
Yeah,
Well, you talked to a guy from Bismarck, didn't you, originally from the police?
yeah,
I-
they called back, they called back after our last meeting to see if anything changed, and I told them I don't, cause their bid was over 20 grand.
You're talking about Arrow, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but there was.
No, I talked, that was Jared Rice.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and that's.
And he said he'd do it too.
Well, cause I had just told him, I said we'd roughly look for like an April to June timeframe. And he said he was pretty busy there, and I said, well, that's not nothing set in stone, I said, that was just kind of preference, I said, if it, you know, and then, I guess he just basically didn't seem very interested in it, so he's either really busy or just doesn't wanna deal with the hassle. I know he had concerns since it was somebody's property and, you know, possibly having like the sheriff's department or somebody just make sure that he didn't have any issues, so maybe he just has hesitations and he's not very interested anymore, I don't know, but, so, I guess another one to reach out to would be Trash Incorporated now, since it's under new management, and see if they have a different opinion on if they want to do it or not. So, Joe, did you wanna reach out to them, or should I?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. I'd say for now, that'd just be kinda where the situation stands. If somebody else has any additions, corrections? Okay, well then moving on, next item is Marcy Sanders with the Good Neighbor Agreement between Chem Electric and Emmons County.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Marcy Sanders with Chem Electric, and I'm the Manager of Member Relations, for those of you that don't know who I am. I've given Marlis Midwest Project Assess Hardened Intelligence. Did you all get that? Okay, so basically what this is just a good neighbor agreement between Emmons County and Chem Electric. Chem Electric is not seeking any money from the county whatsoever on this. This is just part of us at Chem Electric submitting a grant with the federal government for the GRIP. GRIP is the Grid Resilience Innovation Partnership Program. So with that, what we plan on doing is we applied for this grant throughout cooperatives and utilities with North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa. And of that grant, it's a $3 million grant. Of that, it's 75% would be in grant dollars. The rest would be for Chem Electric. The money will be used for grid resilience. So we'll put in some SCADA, which SCADA in short is technology that you can use within the office to help save time for our crews, line crews, and outages out in the line. SCADA will help us close in circuits, open up circuits so we can feed people from different ways if there should be outages and whatnot. This will also help with electronic devices on transmission, again, so that we can open transmission and close it in as we have outages or as voltage is maybe decreasing or increasing. So that's basically what the Good Neighbor Agreement is. It's to help us in obtaining a grant with the federal government. The Good Neighbor Agreement will just between Chem and Emmons County, and I've also have it signed by McIntosh County as well. Again, no dollars will be asked from you all. Basically, it's us at Chem Electric communicating with all of you and our members as to if we get the grant money, what we're gonna do, and how we're gonna upgrade our system. So Aaron, through my hounding him a couple times on the phone, can I get together with you? I think at that time there was some storm and ice and whatnot, but so thanks for coming in, Aaron. He had signed the agreement back on the 21st of March, and I hope that's all okay with you guys. Mainly because my deadline was April 1st, and I heard about this on the 15th of March, roughly. So any questions or concerns about this agreement?
I was just gonna say that I read the agreement, it's pretty standard to what we've done for the city of Lytton and all these other ones when they're applying for federal grants or anything. They usually need some kind of recommendation letter or agreement from a local subdivision, so that's where it didn't look any different from any of the stuff we ever did, and she had an April 1st timeline, so it was either hold a special meeting or put a signature to it, which I didn't think anybody had any concerns with. I normally don't do something like that, but it's pretty generic. There's really no responsibility of the county at all, it's just more so.
It's just a one-time agreement then?
Yeah, so if we don't obtain the funding, then I'll reach out to you guys to let you know the funding, the grant money was not available to us, and then the agreement will be null and void. Or until the end of 2029, I believe it said. So if we are granted the funding, then I will come back and give regular updates to you all. We'll seek input from you guys if you have anything for us. And then until 2029 is when it would expire, till the job is completed.
I think the big reason for this is especially these grant agencies through the federal government and stuff, just wanna make sure that you don't just have some co-op out there applying for grants and nobody really agrees to why they want them or.
Sure, they want it to be legit.
Right, and it's the same, like I said, the same thing we've done with the city of Lytton when I think they did their streetlight grant funding, and same thing with like some sidewalk projects. And part of the federal red tape is that they just want some kind of good neighbor agreement, which in this case, if Ken's using it for grid resiliency and changes to substations, things like that, I don't think anybody in the county's gonna complain about that, so we don't handle any of the funding, none of it comes through if you would get a grant, and so
No.
it's basically just an agreement that we're happy that Ken is trying to seek this funding and trying to do something to improve the network, which, again, I guess I'm normally not in favor of acting on those outside of the meeting, but since there was a deadline, and it seems like there was basically no responsibility, the county didn't really see an issue with it, so in order to keep it moving and keep them qualified, that's why I signed it, which, yeah.
And I appreciate that, Chairman Mayor.
Well,
Thank you.
it's, you know, it's not the best thing to just go out and sign agreements with the responsibility of the county, but since we've done them before, it's a 1.5-page document basically saying we have no responsibility other than we're just basically vouching for Kim. I didn't see a problem with it, so.
Would that funding be used to buy like transformers and supplies to have in storage to when they're needed, or what?
No, this all has to do with more SCADA, breakers out on the line. So it will, once we purchase the, material, it will be out on the line. It will not be in our warehouse waiting for the what if.
Okay.
It will be out there and the construction will start, and we will upgrade the system.
Well, and I think a big part of even like your SCADA, that, just to be clear, that's kind of like where you can switch power from one substation to another, so, I mean, that's come in handy a few times when you have a line down and you can backfeed from another substation and get power back on.
Correct.
Which, you know, during a storm is a huge deal.
Yep.
So,
So it's not just on transmission, it is on the distribution as well. So circuit to circuit or feeder to feeder, whatever you guys want to call it, you're absolutely right. We can close one end, open the other. If we see low voltage, as sometimes we have seen out by the river with the irrigation and all the cabinet accounts being added out there, we can see that voltage live, and not that we get 1,000 calls coming in saying, hey, I have low voltage. And then we're being reactive instead of proactive. So the SCADA is definitely a good thing. We can monitor it within the office. We can switch as we can within the office. It saves our linemen. If we have a fault out on the line, it will detect where the fault is on the line, and we can close it in and open from breaker to breaker, and then get that flowing back again.
They have a little model at that appreciation day at
So-
the sheep shed.
Yep, so that's like that's a trip saver, and those are, currently, some of the breakers that we have out on the line are called oil circuit reclosures. They have to be maintained every other year, I believe it is, or every third year. So you're buying oil, you're having time of the linemen to do this. These trip savers that we have are all electronic now, so, they will operate similar to an oil circuit breaker, but we don't have to change out the oil anymore. We don't have the maintenance like we do on the oil circuit breakers, so it will definitely save chem money in the end, which in result, we'll be able to put back out onto our line for more resilience.
So does that have anything to do with burying any line? Or burying any stuff?
Nope, so this grant does not have anything to do with burying of overhead to underground line. That is basically in our work plan. In our work plan, we have X dollars set aside for that, and we've already determined through like our outage management system that is now more digital, well, it is digital versus on pieces of paper. And so we can run reports right away, determine that, yes, Southwest Emmons County has a lot of outages, or Northeast Kidder County has a lot of outages. So what are we gonna do and how are we gonna fix the grid? So that is part of our work plan, and bearing the overhead to underground. We also look not just on outages, but as far as growth in the area. We have a lot of farmers who are putting up grain bins, irrigation, possible irrigation coming through the system, or addition of more irrigation. So that's more with our work plan. There are some grants out there that will do that. This particular one that we have is not. A lot of our concern is truly transmission, and Chem has a lot of transmission line. And so we want to make sure that that is taken care of. And we also want to make sure that our distribution line is also taken care of. So that's with SCADA. It will help us upgrade the system, or the grant will help us upgrade the system to SCADA, that we will be able to really look at this stuff better and act upon it right away, versus if there's a big ice storm, okay, now we gotta send crews all over to backfeed so we can get members on. We can do it right from the office. And it's not to replace our linemen, because we definitely need them. It's to help them better, so. But the good neighbor agreement truly is just that. Again, we're not seeking funds from the county. We're not looking for you to manage the grant, because that's why we have a consortium put together between the states, the 4 states that we have. And they're writing the grant, and that grant money will come back to us, and our engineers and management team will then utilize that money and take care of the grid as we're intending to do.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are you all okay with the agreement? Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I appreciate your time.
We need a motion, don't we?
Yep, I was just gonna ask, I'd say the proper way to do it is probably to just,
I'll make a motion to approve the good neighbor agreement between Chem Electric and Emmons County.
yep, Commissioner Holm makes a motion to approve the good neighbor agreement between Emmons County and Chem Electric, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion on the good neighbor agreement? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agreement approved.
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Next item on the agenda will be Acacia Stucco with the extension quarterly report.
Josh, can I want you to hand these? Okay. All right, well, good morning. Just a quick quarterly report, our little update. So Josh had just handed out the quarterly narrative, so you can all take a look at that. I'll be brief. As you guys know, this is just kind of a little report of some of the things that have been happening in our office this last quarter. So we had our pesticide trainings and our commodity elections. Since we currently do not have an A&R agent, Logan County's agent Justin Lear came over and he administered the pesticide trading. So we did do that. I did Health Wise for Guys. This year's topic is prostate cancer. So at our pesticide training, I presented on that and gave information. If you turn to the inside, big program this time of year for me is On the Move to Better Health Junior. And I do that in the second grade classrooms in all 3 schools in Emmons County. It's a 5-week program, and so that's always fun. We had our big 4-H soup fundraiser and bake sale. We had a good success. We were down just a little bit from last year, but we were very pleased with the attendance and the amount of funds raised. And just to note that the A&R position is still open, and I did include the job description because sometimes people have asked questions, and I thought as commissioners it might be nice for you guys to just be able to look at the job description if anybody asks you what some of the qualifications are. Last week was something different that I haven't done before. Is I did a statewide. I was working with a group of other agents across the state, and so I did a statewide Zoom in collaboration with NDSU Extension and the Alzheimer's Association. And so there was 166 people registered for it throughout the state, and including some from Emmons County. So that was kind of different. I did hold some Aging Well workshop watch parties. So they had special guests between South Dakota State University and North Dakota State University talking on different topics. One that was particularly very interesting was the estate planning and kind of guidelines for 2024 in terms of elder law, updates on elder law and estate planning. And then I did host one 2 weeks ago too on strategies for living in your home longer, and had really good discussion with one of the participants there. And so I'm hoping to maybe bring a different program or start something off of some ideas that came out of that workshop. I did include a couple pictures from our 4-H fur trapping demo. Eric Schmidt's obviously the game warden, but he's also a 4-H leader. And so he did a couple of demonstrations on fur trapping. We tried to catch a beaver. We went out a few times, checked the traps, and weren't successful, but he did catch one. So I did get to send a picture to all the kids, but the 4-Hers themselves didn't, but it was fun and they learned how to do it. And I learned a lot. I didn't know anything about beaver trapping. No, I learned some stuff too. So just the back is calendar of events, upcoming stuff. You know, we're gearing up for 4-H season. Achievement Days will be just around the corner, believe it or not. So kind of switching gears and getting ready for that. So I guess any questions for me?
Appreciate you narrowing the picture of me down, it makes me look skinnier in here, so that's good.
Well, I was waiting to see if anybody else noticed. So Aaron did attend the bake sale, so I took a picture for proof.
I was worried about that actually since the moment you took that picture, I was like, ooh.
What's she gonna do with it?
No, I think the bake sale in Suitfield was a huge success,
Yeah.
another big crowd.
Yeah, it was good. We were down just a little from the previous year, but it didn't snow that day. I don't know if everybody remembers, but I think that kept a few folks, maybe some elderly ones that would typically come home. But we still did really well.
So pretty good, so not?
Okay, well, you know where to find me if you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Dennis and Tina Weber. Discussion for lot 25A, Beaver Bay subdivision, section 23, township 132, range 79.
Good morning.
Morning.
After your last meeting, I listened to it and I realized that you guys had more questions, and therefore I sent a letter out to you. I think more or less, I'm sure it gave to all of you. Probably answered some of them, but if you have any more for us, that's why we're here.
Yeah, if you looked at that road used to go through them trees. That was just a trail, a dirt trail. That's all it was. and that was the easement. When that got moved over on Herb's lot at that time, he wasn't aware of it either. He thought it was still going down the other part. Well, I didn't even know for sure where that lot was. I knew where the well was at, but I didn't know where that whole lot was. Well, till we had it surveyed, we realized the best part of the lot is the road. So when we tried to sell that, well, the road is taking up a third of that lot.
So evidently the county moved the road.
Without permission. I'm thinking they didn't wanna go through them trees, cause I know when we moved my daughter and son-in-law's trailer down there years ago, we had to go out and around into the core land because you couldn't get through them trees.
The trees went to the right?
Right, yep, you could see where it used to be somebody.
Right through there?
No,
No, on the other side.
The other way.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
along that, you have to go right through them trees.
I suppose they just started driving that way and then it
I'm
just-
sure somebody decided, well, I'm not, because then people were trimming trees to get through there, cause a vehicle would scrape. You're going back with a four-wheeler side by side, it was.
Then eventually somebody just had a little trail going
Yeah.
that way and then they waited.
Yeah. See, I know somebody was driving on Core stopped that, the right away, you know.
So are you selling that lot now? You wanna sell it?
We're planning on it, yes.
So what do you want for it, do you know?
Well, they were gonna ask
40,000.
40,000 for it.
Cause we had talked about maybe buying a lot and then,
Or either that or move the road back to where it should have been.
The easement isn't that large, you know, the easement isn't that
Yeah,
big.
no, I mean, what would be
Let's get
cheaper?
trees.
You know, moving the road back, taking those trees out, or buying 40,000 for a lot?
Sure, I get about 40 grand to push those trees out.
Well, I'm sure that's the reason they decided to make the road when they gravelled it and stuff, cause I know years ago, we had a cabin out there and we gravelled our part. You know, and then I said to the guys down south, which wasn't very many at that time, you know, you should have just hauled some gravel, hire somebody and put some gravel in that easement so it's not so dusty. Well, they did, but that just disappeared and after we sold our lot, I didn't pay attention anymore, what was going back there, you know? Cause then my daughter and son-in-law, they sold their place and, you know, so there was no reason for us to go back there anymore.
so did you have that surveyed out? You got it surveyed out, you know where the lines are?
Yeah, you guys actually had
You
it
surveyed it out?
surveyed out.
Yeah.
The front
The
side,
front side, the back side, there is a,
and there's a marker in the
There's
back.
pins. And it's not a high-grade road, it's just a trail, right?
Not
It's a
what?
flat,
Before it was just a trail.
it's gravelled around.
It's,
you know.
now it's a pretty decent, you know, gravel road
there's
now.
gravel out there.
And with all the people back, that looks like a little town back there, there's a lot of traffic. When we go back there, you know, when we were looking at it, I mean, even in the fall, there was a lot of traffic going back and forth. I imagine in the summertime, it's a lot.
And I don't know if you can, show a picture where the survey is now, right where, I don't know who owns that property now, where Dave Beestrom's property used to be. Just on the other side of our lot there. That easement is right up to his fence.
Yeah.
Right
I
up to
actually
it.
think part of his fence might be on these.
It has the fence drawn as the X's with the lines right there.
No,
So
That's the fence.
the part that sticks out the most would almost be center of how the easement's drawn from your guys' survey that was done. Did Wall do it? And then
Probably bold engineering, I would say.
yeah. So yeah, this would be the drawing of the fence right here. So essentially to me, it looks like it's, the center is coming up on this hillside a little bit.
So is that white fence in a way too?
Yeah.
But
It's right next,
it's
right next.
yeah, there was, he could, you know, there was no covenant or anything, so he could actually put the fence up against the easement if he wanted to, because
There's no setback on
no
it.
setback at all, nope.
So I think we right, all those trees would have to come out then, right?
Definitely,
All those trees would have.
yeah,
All
because,
these trees, how big are they?
yeah, like I said, when you went by through there with a pickup, if you didn't trim them trees down, it would hit the side of your pickup.
And they've just gotten bigger.
Yeah, and nobody's trimmed them for years, so I mean, they really filled in.
Well, they should almost come down anyway. They should almost come down anyway if they're growing, you know. I don't know, something that, you know, probably should be looked at and decide what would be best.
Pretty much.
And you're okay if they move some of that dirt onto this trail, correct?
Well, you
And
can
fill
see
in that.
where, you know, the high bank there, that was where the trail was.
Was,
Yeah.
so it was high, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then why not just go in there and shape that? And push those few trees out with a cat or a payloader? And shape it.
Bunch there, right?
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah,
It's all along there.
that's quite a ways.
Have to drive out and look at it. And that's where you look, is for Dave Beestrom's lot, is that on the backside?
No, it's not anymore, Dave's, that used to be Dave DeBeestrom's right there.
Okay, he's to the west now, right?
Yeah, he went further south and I think on the west side, yeah. I'm not even sure where his lot is anymore.
I guess the biggest question would be is when the county took that back on taxes, did we take back the prescribed easement, or did it get changed in, you know, what the description is of what the actual property we have? You know what I mean? Yeah. Cause is that exactly how that easement is on that plat, is probably how it is parceled out and how that would have been prescribed back to us?
Yeah, I think
That make
once
sense?
all the lots were getting sold, there was no real legal description for the road, it was just called roadways in Beaver Bay.
Roadways, right?
Yeah, because, you know, he owned this whole thing and then platted out these lots that didn't go to the center of the road, so when they started selling, he was left with the road.
So like that Beaver Bay Trail, the way it's drawn out there, would have been the parcel that was owned, that was getting charged taxes, and that's what came back to the county.
Yeah, anything that I click on and I highlight, and it gets highlighted in blue there,
Right.
is what came back to the county.
Sure. I mean, cause my big concern would be that we end up reshaping part of the road that's technically not even in our, you know, that we don't even own, cause we don't own the entire road, we only own the certain parcels. You know, kinda like how Josh has drawn up there, wherever the edge of them parcel are, cause some of that trail is not even on, you know, that entire road is not county property.
So right now, it's not. Right now, it's, actually, that part would be, that road would be our road, wouldn't it?
Well, no, I'm just saying even other parts of the road,
Well,
it's,
probably
it
not.
gets assumed that the entire road from the highway all the way in is the county's, cause it came back on taxes, but even according to what Josh is saying, some of it's partial pieces, right?
Yeah, the rest is in, well, essentially in core land.
Right, and so that's where,
But that whole part there is where our property is, right in front of it there.
right,
Well, then how does the county or how does anybody shape a road in there if nobody owns it? Well,
well,
it's gotta be owned by private individuals and they create a road.
it comes back to the argument of the county not even maintaining that road, cause
Yeah.
exactly right, it's really not public right of way,
No.
that's kind of the argument on all of it, I mean, that's even why like the Coyote Hill part, or whatever you wanna call it up there, and that road and that property, and why we don't have nothing to do with it, cause it's not in public right of way, and it's the same thing with the rest of the road. I mean, really, none of it is technically county, except now them turquoise or blue marks, because that came back to the county on back taxes. So we own it just like we own an abandoned city lot for $1 to sell
Could
it.
you be conveyed back?
Well, the trouble with conveying it back, and the reason why we didn't, is because who do you convey it back to? You can't really give it to,
Landowners.
well, you'd give it to the adjacent landowners, but then they'd almost have to prescribe easement to the other people that needed to get other places. That's the reason why, when it came back on taxes, we weren't so apt to hand it back to anybody, because you understand what I'm saying, there's people in them properties that need to access through the other parts. Well, if you convey this road easement back to Tina and Dennis,
But you got right of ingress, egress.
well, that's the fight that would need to be had then, right? I mean, this is where the nightmare would continue, basically, you know? I mean, that's where, what is the true position of the county in this sense, because a lot of that road is not public right of way, and even the parts that are there technically aren't public right of way, they're public property, but it's an easement that we acquired through back taxes. I don't even know where the argument, these are arguments that probably need to be had in a different room other than the county commission, and that's the problem.
From your standpoint,
It's a mess.
looking at this, you've got right of ingress, egress, correct? On state law.
Well, it probably would, because it's been an established road used for a timeline,
Yeah.
right? But that would need to be established by a court.
Right.
Right now, I don't know. I would have to look at the plat to see how it was originally platted, and
Cause
I don't think it's clear.
we go in there and maintain some of it, I mean,
Well, we maintain all of it essentially, or at least a part of it, or, a big piece of it, cause that's always kinda how it's been, but the trouble is it's a very difficult road to maintain too, because there's narrow parts, there's parts that are literally underneath, like that part, that road is actually cut into the ground, it's not even built up.
Yeah.
And that was always the discussion of, it went from getting bladed once a year to be a good favor, to now all of a sudden the road got moved by a blade operator. Did it get moved by the county commissioners? Was that an idea? Did people start driving over there and then all of a sudden that just became the road, and then the county blade guy came in and smoothed it out, not knowing that there was an easement there? I mean, that's the trouble with this whole situation. That's where, no matter what situation you choose, no matter which side you choose, someone's gonna be pissed off, because, like you said, if that fence is inside of the old easement and you're gonna maintain the old easement, well,
we're gonna have to take.
I can't even imagine that cut bank's in the right place. If you line up the fence with it, you're gonna have to cut into that hill to make that easement what it's supposed to be. That's not even in the right spot.
No.
I'd be very willing to bet that road easement, that road's never been actually built to the easement. It's been built close, but it's also been built by path of least resistance, and that's what you have now, and that's the problem with all of it is,
There's no slopes.
I'm just saying, this is a prime example of what happens when you go in and you want a blade to do a favor, or just blade to help out and be a nice neighbor, and now you got this situation where you have a responsibility now, and whose responsibility is it? We're just trying to be the nice guys, but now the road ended up getting shifted over, and now who's supposed to fix it? That's just the question that has to be had, so. The trouble with purchasing the lot is, are there other encroachments in other places? Next thing you know, you're
That's
buying up half the
exactly
lots in Beaver Bay to own the road?
Yeah.
That's not,
That's the first thing that came to my mind. If we purchased it, there might be other parts that were in the same.
I didn't,
Purchase
when
this
it
also.
first got brought up, it was a great idea, I'm like, well, that's an easy way to solve it, but the question is, as you start digging deeper, it's like, you're gonna end up buying 3 lots down there? It's just a lot to ask, and then how do you, the county shouldn't be in the property development business, so it's a mess. It's just a mess.
County shouldn't own no property.
Well, and nobody wanted this property except it came back on taxes, and like I said, the concern of the county commission at that time is how do you deed it back to people? You'd almost have to have some kind of a plan, like you said, you'd have to have some kind of law allowing prescription of access, but then how do you do that when the access is technically, who grants access?
Do they have bylaws? Is that a development with a name?
No.
And there is no development with a name that they're all within this certain development, like a gated area in the development. There's no name for this, is there?
No.
And that they've got laws within that development.
No,
I think
it's just
essentially it's just
Beaver Bay
platted.
subdivision.
Right. It's just
Yeah.
platted, I don't think there's any, other than the county ordinances, which are pretty loose in the recreational areas especially,
we couldn't buy just that sliver, and then, I don't know.
Well, cause here's the concern that I would have, is that you allow egress, ingress, like Commissioner Materi saying, which I don't disagree with either, but that's probably not a decision we could even make, and then on top of it, who allows it? Do we have to recreate the easement and then deed it back? Because it's really not Dennis and Tina's obligation to allow it. It's a mess.
I think we need an opinion from Joe or some attorney.
Well, I mean, the only other thing, I mean, I can tell you, an attorney general's opinion sounds great, but it'll take a year to get that. I mean, it's not good, so I really don't know what the right thing to do is here in this general sense, because I mean, even like I said, the original idea was buy the property and get out of it, but I think you're probably gonna open up more of a can of worms than closing. Because this road seems to have just kind of evolved into the path of least resistance, which could be anywhere, I mean. And the other problem you have too is outside of that platted area, that road is on core land is the assumption?
Yeah.
Well,
It is on
Cause
core land.
those are the ends of the parcels, right?
when you get down a little further to the south, there's a course stake there, and the trail is on the east side of it.
And that's what, I mean, cause the point I'm getting at too is now you're starting to do this thing where you're moving the road to fit lots, well,
Then you have to do it.
is that road even allowed on core land? Obviously,
No.
it's being
Well, I think there
tolerated,
was
but-
an agreement between the county and the Corps to maintain that road.
Sure.
And the Corps has the right to move their boundaries when needed. There's
Well,
probably erosion, you know.
But they tried that when we first bought our lots down there, but we won it and they had to move it back. Because they decided they wanted to move it and all of a sudden we lost, I don't know, about 30 feet of our lot, the whole length. And me and my father-in-law, her dad, we went out there and found all the old markers and measured everything out. And he went through a lot of work, but they ended up moving them back.
Okay.
Well, I guess it'd be interesting to see if that, if there's some kind of recorded agreement or something like that too, with the Corps or something, or find out or
I
something.
think we gotta do some checking on this to get something back just before we do anything.
Well, right, I think acting on it right now, just for the sake of trying to, solve one problem might cause three others. I mean, I'm not in disagreement that it's a mess and there probably should be some kind of resolution, but it's, cause also I'm curious about the responsibility of the county, cause even though we took this parcel back on taxes, we technically have the part that's back on taxes. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, the easement came back to us, not necessarily the road if it's not on the easement.
There is no easement though, is there?
Well, there's that road easement
there's-
that's parceled out separately from the lots, and that's what came back on taxes. Cause when, basically, Cliff Notes version, Herb and others that had those lots sold them, and then he basically had the road easement.
Well,
That
that
part was
all
a
that
part of the
at one
lots.
time, well, her grandma, then he bought 55 acres or whatever.
Right.
Then when he started wanting to sell lots back there, that's when he come up with that easement.
Right, but that easement was parceled out separate from the parcels.
Yes.
Right, and
Yeah.
so that parcel, the road easement, the taxes were getting paid by Herb and
Yeah.
whoever was affiliated, family, whatever.
Basically, her paid the tax.
Right, and so what happened
On the
was
road.
essentially, once the lots were all sold, Herb quit paying the taxes on it, is essentially what happened, and then
Yeah.
it came
Is
back
that
to
what
the,
it-
that's what, it
county?
came back to the county because on back taxes, well, then it was supposed to go up for auction. The concern we had is that anybody could come in and buy it for, it was a few $100s or, it wasn't much. And we felt like that was a big concern. So the county, raised the minimum, I think we raised it pretty high, like $1 million, cause we were concerned that just somebody would come in and buy it and totally upset everything, but at the same time,
So you were on the board when this took place?
Yep, I was,
Because how long ago was that then?
3 years ago?
It was
Yeah, you were too, cause that was, I'd say 3 to 5 years ago.
That's when we.
Well, wouldn't it have been smart then to draw something up on paper?
Yeah.
That they were just kind of a gentleman's agreement on adjacent landowners, no matter if it changes hands, that this road will stay and nobody really, it just goes with the property.
Right,
These
well-
people that right of egress back there.
Well, that's something that probably needs to be discussed, and, I mean, at the time, the best interest of it was to just try and maintain it as public, but we also didn't realize that this road was just traipsing through lots and not, I mean, the assumption was it was on the easement and it was properly done, and now we just have it, and the county was doing snow removal and blading for years down there anyway, and it was kind of just agreed upon that's how it was done. And so we just tried to keep things going the way it was, but you're right, I mean, the proper way to do it is probably.
There's probably some more areas that if they
I
survey.
don't believe so, I think
Don't you
that
think?
is the only place, yeah.
I mean, the general concern was the right thing to do was to keep it public, and that's why we didn't sell it back to somebody, but at the same time, there's issues like this that go with it that, you know, should get handled, but it wasn't really an issue brought to anybody's attention until now. I mean, the assumption was it was on its right easement, it's been there for 50 years, so 40 years, it's been there, I would say, what, 70s, 80s, since this road's been, and these lots have been starting to get developed, so.
Well, he started in the nineties, you know.
Well, public roadways should all have back set though, shouldn't they? But technically by law, Joe,
Well, the trouble is this,
all public roads should all have back set, shouldn't
Back set.
they? Easements on your ditches, setback.
Well, we didn't plat this road, I mean, this
Yeah,
is,
that was basically just a easement like a dirt trail.
Yeah.
That's all the easement was, it
It's a
wasn't
private
very
road.
wide.
they put this subdivision together, they built the roads, I guess themselves. Somehow the road got moved to the wrong spot, and now they want the county to pay for that.
I know we had, K&H come there and that big hill, and he come out and shaved that down. And pushed, you know, he kinda made part of the road for us. And later on, I think after we sold our lot, they even made that, I don't know if the county did it or what, but somebody else shaved that hill down some more. Cause that used to be really steep. And it's a lot of shale there.
essentially, if you were gonna tackle it, it's kinda like what you're saying, it's almost like the old 83 corridor. I mean, essentially, kinda like what you went with on your property and stuff too, where.
Well, they had 100 foot easements.
Right, I mean, this is different, cause like Joe said, this was never designed to be like a public roadway, it was easement for the property owners. And now it ended up back in the county's hands because of tax reasons, and now it's not.
And a lot of those.
It's not designed to be a
initial
public.
family members, right, when it got sold initially started.
Well, the first ones that bought it were all his friends,
Okay, yeah,
you know?
yep.
And then, later on, I think it was like early nineties when we started with one lot, then we ended up purchasing a couple more. I think more in like in the early 2000s when it started getting more down to the south. Like I said, when we used to go down there, it was just powder dirt.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think there were any rules out there at all,
No, there wasn't.
because people were building houses up almost against their other houses, just onto the road.
Well, you know, some of them, yeah, they
Yeah.
did move up, they did build up to the front, yeah, because they wanted, for one reason, they wanted to get
Just dust.
you know, I guess if we can sell our lot to anybody and they can do what they want with the rest of that, if they, you know, cause actually where the road is would be a good place to put something. You know, if you wanted to, you know, not the whole thing, but you could start there and then go to the west,
Right.
you know?
Well, the trouble is that's why the road ended up there, obviously, over the years, that was the levelest
Yeah.
path of least resistance, that's I mean,
Well,
like
you
you
know-
said, the best part of your lot is also the best place to drive
Well,
to,
you know,
so.
that's how farmers are too, you know, you're out there driving and all of a sudden the root gets a little deep, so you just move over to the side of it and you drive.
Well, I'm thinking that's what happens, over the years, people started moving the road over, and these dang trees started growing up because no one drove there for 2 or 3 years, but then the blade finally did come down over the years.
The blade's been going
No, but my point is that there wasn't a scenario where the blade was probably maintaining it as much as they had been recently, and it was like, by the time you did get down there, it's like, oh, this is the trail, and you just bladed the trail, and that maintained the road.
We did go down there, which wasn't, like I said, maybe once a year, if that. It was overfull, because he'd always had his blade churned quite a bit.
You went on the grass.
Well, the other trouble is too, is I think if you go farther down to the south, isn't that road actually on the section line for like just a couple hundred feet if you go way to the south? Cause that was another issue that came up years before, was that part of that was a section line, if you go, yeah, like,
Until it's down there.
no, I think right up, or there was some, I don't know. Or am I thinking of Cattail? No, you're right, if you go farther south down there,
But then you're past it already, you're in a different,
or is that Cattail I'm thinking of, that's on a section line for that?
What's his name there?
Yeah, that's Cattail,
yeah, cause there, the section line is basically in the water.
right, well, I'm thinking of Cattail Bay, that's the one where there's,
Cause that was the
Stretch
thing
that
with
was on the
fighting with Cord to get us, cause the section line was in the
Yeah.
water, how do you find a?
yeah, I was in the wrong development, sorry.
Yeah, you were talking about the guy, you want to build golf course out there and stuff.
I don't know, I was talking about right at the Cattail development, that one, I think it's Walleye Lane or something, that's on a section line for like, just that 1,000 feet or something, and then once it turns off, it's not, but that's where,
Yeah,
we've done some maintenance on that one, cause that actually is a section line design, so. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, it's something I think there's probably gonna have to be a little more research done into, because again, if you're gonna restore that easement, you're gonna have to take that fence out and some of that other stuff. And I don't know what the rules are about stuff being there for so long that, I mean, you can't just probably, I don't know,
Was the road in its current location in 2018 when it came back for taxes?
I would say yes for that.
So the developer had the road in that spot and then stopped paying taxes. That's basically how the county got involved,
Well,
or?
that was, I mean, cause my question, I think you weren't in here, was, you know, we have the parcel that wasn't getting taxes paid on it.
Right,
And that's all kind of in the same condition it was when we got the lots, or the parcel lots, whatever you wanna call them, for the easement. That's what I'd say, I wonder where the responsibility actually is on us for that, that's what I'm kind of questioning, because I mean.
This came back to our responsibility, what he's saying is that road was there already.
yeah,
Exactly, that's what my point is we technically didn't even inherit that road, we inherited the parcels next to it. The road's on some of it,
right.
but it's not on all of it, so what is our responsibility? That's the question, is that, cause the assumption is the road is the county's, when essentially the road is not the county's, the easement is the county's, and there is road on most of the easement, but not all of it. So, are we responsible for all of that road? I mean, that's where, and that's where the question kind of comes into, cause not so much trying to escape from something, but more so we don't do something that we don't even have the right to do is another question.
Right.
You start doing things that.
It's almost like a more private road.
Well, it's almost like you'd be moving a road off of private property onto public property, is that even something we're allowed to do? Could we might even get sued for something like that, I don't know, like, those are the questions that need to be answered before a decision can probably get made on this, cause.
So you're thinking that road isn't even actually the county's road, so it would be our road?
Well, I mean, again.
Well, we could
this
fence it
is-
off if we
Well,
wanted to.
this is a legal discussion, I mean, this is, I'm not trying to pick a fight with you guys either, but my question would be that we're not deeded the actual physical road, we're deeded the property the road is supposed to be on. It is on that property, on a lot of it, the road is on the right spot, but there are spots like this, and maybe this is the only one, where
Well, I guess.
our property technically is there and we maintain it essentially, or we have it, that road is technically not ours, it is on yours. Now, can you stop people from using it? I think a judge would probably have to tell you different.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
mean,
thing, I know,
I know-
we've only had it a short time, but I know the road's been there since that 2018 probably.
when we took it on, that was,
18 is when it started.
yeah.
Or before
that
that.
was everything.
Yeah, I guess.
Right,
I'm
when
not-
Joe's point on
I
2018
couldn't
was-
testify to that, cause I really don't know.
2018 was when the road came back to the county probably, I'd say that's.
Right.
Right, so that's right, so
So then,
roughly
is it
5.
really, is it
going on
really,
6 years.
is it really the county's responsibility to build a road there?
I mean, that's the question I'm having, is you going, we don't own the road, we own the property the road is supposed to be on. And it's on it in 90% of those parcels, but there's stretches like this where it's not, and
Well, then the 10% we should.
and again, you could basically just say that is a private road. Now, if Dennis and Tina go fence it off, is someone gonna sue them, then it becomes like a civil matter. Now, I don't know if that's our responsibility to maintain
The
that.
question, then if we go, let's say we hire a lawyer to see if we can sell it, and somebody wants to build a cabin there, and they say, yeah, you own that, because that's plotted out that way, the easement's over, so the person can build a lot, whatever they want there, you guys would be all right with that?
It'll be tough to build, cause you need, 9/10 of an acre to have a sewer system legally in the state.
You don't have to, doesn't mean you have to put a sewer system in.
But I think the question would be is if you impact what Commissioner Materi says, that egress, ingress, especially with the statute of limits and the, I mean, you know, once that road's been there so many years, it kind of becomes the road, there's certain laws, every judge is different, because we've had issues like that where, I mean, where you fence off a road that's been a road for 50 years, not a section line, to be clear, but, I mean, even a trail through it, I mean.
What's the law on established trail, 20 years plus? With this doctrine of acquiescence, whatever they call it.
Yeah, I believe it is 20 years, but there's so many, you have other elements you have to reach. I mean, it becomes a balancing test for the court to determine whether all these factors are present. That's the other thing we were asking about this. I don't know when the road was built. I don't know if the road was actually moved, or if it was just always built there. I don't know who moved it or why it was, you know. So it's a little bit difficult to develop some reasoning of what would happen, you know, if it was litigated. We'd have, I mean, obviously more research would need to be done.
So if that gets fenced off, there's no other access down there, is it? There's some,
Well, you'd have to go back onto the old easement, and then there would be. Well, you can actually come down around that, was it Coyote Hill or whatever?
Yeah, come
And
down.
then, but it's real, when you come down that hill, it's a lot of shale.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's a terrible road. Awful.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, when, yeah.
I guess because, I mean, the main thing that concerns me, I'm just gonna be honest with you, so if you have any kind of, you know, I don't know what the proper wording is, basically, that same fence that would have to get moved has been there for X amount of years. Does that person now have rights to that land? I mean, I'm just saying, like, he's been encroaching on that easement so long, is that easement still the easement? Does that road have the right to be on their land? Do they have the right to close it? Those are all questions that
Right.
I think they're getting a little beyond the scope
Well,
of this,
yeah,
board,
it's
that's for
tough
sure.
because-
Not without getting ourselves in an issue, I mean,
They wouldn't have adverse possession rights against the county because we're a government entity, but they probably had that fence there for 20 years before 2018, you know what I mean? So
did they
can
have
start
adverse
thinking-
possession against her before
Right,
the county
right.
even inherited it? I mean, that's where cause I don't think we can come in and just, since now that we inherited it, we now supersede law either. I mean, and you know, whose decision that would be, not ours. I mean, I'm just saying, before you tear into something like this, there's some major questions as far as the law.
Get a legal opinion.
Well, I mean, you get a legal opinion if you give me a question. I mean, this is such an open-ended question. You want me to just tell you what my opinion is as to this situation?
Well, the question, I guess, the main question I would have is, do we have a responsibility to that specific road?
Well, that's my question too.
I mean,
How
because,
many years has that trail been there?
I mean,
And somebody to answer
Well,
that.
the original trail was there for.
What are you looking for?
This road, I think like I said, the blade operator decided this is a lot easier to put and gravel it than the other part. That's my opinion.
So whether we have responsibility to that piece of road is probably gonna depend on 5 or 6 different questions that I can't answer. Or facts that I don't know, and information that I might not be able to obtain, is what I'm just saying. I mean, I will certainly do my best to provide you that opinion.
well, I guess another question would be is, do we have a responsibility to maintain that road easement now that it came back on taxes?
so what you're saying is that,
Because it was designed to be an easement, does that make it our responsibility to maintain it as an easement? Because that would be another question too. 'cause-
so if that takes back this whole lot, does that mean we have to cut down the trees and make a road, is what you're saying?
Well, I guess the question would be is, does that easement have to be used for a road? And if it does, then I suppose it would fall on the responsibility of the landowner, which would be us. But I don't know if that's a true fact, I'm just assuming here.
Well,
It's just
was
we're
there
just
an
winging it.
agreement for that road with the county?
I don't think there's any agreement with that, and that's kind
So
of
how
gets,
did that get built then? I mean, that, like I said, that somebody, went out, because I've seen the blade out there.
Yeah, enough people came
Somebody
into the
must have
meeting.
said, "Well, they cut it, it's my property back
Right,
there."
or 10 landowners came in and complained, and the commissioner said, okay, we'll blade it once a year, and we'll throw a little gravel on it, and now it became the county's responsibility. Which is exactly the reason why I've advocated to stay off of land that's not prescribed to public access, cause now you have a situation where we're involved in a private road matter that,
The county providing services on a road, doesn't bind them to eternal servitude to that road. I mean, the question is that part of the county's road system? Then it would
Right.
have a duty to maintain it.
cause then, I mean, even that goes along the same lines with even like snow removal. I mean, we can technically move snow anywhere we want for an emergency basis, or, I mean, if someone's living down there that needs to, you can do that stuff.
There's situations too where people complain, well, I live down there now, 911, how am I gonna get out this winter?
Right,
That-
well, and that's why I said the county ended up maintaining a piece of road that, like you said, it's not a part of its road system, it's not built to be a part of its road system.
And we should have never done
Now
that.
you have a situation where, you have a road possibly being moved because of the maintenance of it, who's reliable, who's responsible for that?
Well, we thought we were, because
So-
somebody was gonna die back there, so we just put it.
Well,
In my opinion, the road is getting used and it's in a good location now. If we could be 100% certain that there weren't other situations like this, I'd say let's just get it done, pay them off and get that land and be done with it. But like you said, there's probably,
well, I think you'd have to do some more research and find out if there's any other encroachments or situations before you go and do that. If that was the only encroachment,
right.
and you could possibly do that, it maybe is still the cleanest.
There's
to
no
do
way
it.
to know that for sure though. That's a situation that,
Well, the one thing to do
Well,
would
you can go,
probably,
like, them trees on the west side, and actually, the core marker is right on the other side, trees to the south.
Where's it at?
Well, I don't know if you can go down there,
That
but
white
you should
mark?
be able to see it.
Oh,
Nope, that
Down
further down
there?
there.
Yeah.
I see one down there.
This is some
That's a cool
signs that
market
are
now.
moving and stuff.
Yeah,
That's,
So they gotta, that's
there
probably
used,
their
to-
corner.
yeah, there used to be an orange marker there somewhere.
well, if there's gotta be a steel pin.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, but the core had all them, plastic orange ones that come up, and there should be one over further on the east side too, towards that, end of that white fence. Yep, there it is.
So that's core land there.
Mm-hmm. That's why that trail always was going through part of the trail on core land.
So then,
so even if we move the road, we'd be doing a project on Core's land, at least part of it. So-
Well, not, if you leave it where it's at now, I don't know, it'd be I always thought the Corps in the county had agreement with that.
well, I think the question
You guys
would be, we'd
did
have to
that.
look in the records and see if there's some kind of recorded agreement. Usually the Corps is pretty specific about that stuff, and there's probably something in the courthouse here as far as like a notarized agreement or something, because that was the other question, is if we go and remove an encroachment in one spot just to still be participating in encroachment on somewhere else, that's not necessarily a good deal either, so
not gonna get anywhere.
there needs to be some more research done as far as what the proper role to do here is. Maybe Joe can do some more, maybe if there's some precedent or some kind of, or some direction to go here, cause I can just kinda see it being one of them things where we make a hasty decision to solve one party's problems, only to create two other parties' problems, and that is pretty counterproductive, so
You gotta move it up there too.
those are the questions, cause Josh's GIS map
It could be
compared to the
off.
parcels could be, there is some, extrapolation because of the angle of the picture, and so
Yeah.
that picture is very close, but it's not nearly as accurate as an actual on-the-ground survey, so depending on how that all lays out, there could be a few spots, so. I guess for now, I would say my suggestion is we probably have to table this till we get some more information, because, I don't know if we're quite equipped to make a true decision here right now without probably making it worse, so. Unless anybody else has any other suggestions, or,
No, I think it's best to table it.
say if we get that in the form of a motion from somebody.
I'll make a motion to table this until we get more information on it.
Okay, Commissioner Holm makes a motion to, table the lot for Dennis and Tina Weber. Second to that motion. I guess for the sake of discussion, I would say let's just put it on hold and unfinished business, so it's at least,
So when did you want,
not that we just get forgotten about it, so.
when did you want to sell that lot?
Sooner than.
We were gonna try to advertise
Yeah,
this
rather
spring,
sooner,
but,
because
yeah.
we're just
But-
paying taxes on it, and we insured it in case something happens out there, you know, on it. And, cause people use it, cause there's access to the river, so other people use it, and you see the trail going through there. So we just
So
like.
you're worried about the liability?
Yeah, that's why we put insurance on it, in case something happens.
Okay. Well, I'd say we'll put it under hold and unfinished business, so we at least discuss it at the next meeting too, and if there's more information, maybe make a resolution, if not, just at least continue to talk about it if it's under that instead of.
So we should come next month.
I would suggest that, hopefully we have some more information, or same with you guys, if you have any other information in the meantime that comes up, the more information, the better. Best decision we can make, so everybody's sort of involved and somewhat satisfied, and we don't get ourselves in a bigger trap, and
Yeah.
Okay.
so that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second, is there any more discussion on the motion to table this for next month? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? The item is tabled till the next month's meeting.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you, guys. I think we just wanna take a little, like a 2-minute break here, or something like that for a second, and come back before we get Brad.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's take a little 2-minute break. Next on the list is Brad Huber with the quarterly VA report.
Okay, good morning, gentlemen. I would say quarterly, of course, it's my first quarter. I think it was fairly busy with the snowbirders returning and the weather warming up. I've kind of noticed things are picking up as far as folks stopping by the office. Some big notes, I have the online, it's called Vetrospect set up. And I'm just getting into that like any new program. It's the trial and error of just understanding how it all works and how it all operates. Essentially, that means instead of mailing, faxing, emailing documents, it's all gonna get downloaded on that and sent real time to Department of Veterans Affairs or VFW or American Legion. Some changes in the VA policies. I am starting to get a lot more veterans come in for benefits, which is always a good thing. Completed the safety training or LMS training, and at the end of the month, we have our VSO training in Fargo. With that, any questions for me?
No, everything looks, pretty orderly here, Brad.
I didn't put that in there. This is just the receipt. I don't know if this is what they, as advertised, it's like $449 fee for the program updates and everything that goes with that. So,
Well, I think that was all part of your budget for the tech.
yeah, I actually added that onto it, so
Sure.
everything was covered.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was all kind of understood, especially with the changeover to Tyler Technologies, that your department was gonna be part of that, so.
There was one thing they're supposed to be coming for all the VA records that's kind of getting pushed. What they do is they come in, they inventory everything, they box it up, they take it down, they scan everything, and then everything I have in paper currently in my office will all be digitized and added to this Vetrospect system. So any veteran here moves away and they want services from another county, they will all have that information, which is kind of what the whole purpose of them taking the records.
What percentage do they pay like on burial headstones? I didn't realize that the vets are, they get that benefit, which is a good deal. 20%.
If they want, if they're a veteran and they request a headstone, that's all covered by the VA. And
Okay.
the only thing is it's incumbent upon the family the family to make sure they fill out the form correctly, because any mistakes, it's gonna be on the family to fix. And as far as the veteran cemetery, which I've been getting a lot of veterans stop in for that, that's all, you fill out the form. If you are eligible for that, you just fill out the form and that's it. That's no cost to the family.
Okay.
At all, so.
Good deal.
Does anybody else have any questions for Brad? All right, well,
Appreciate it, Brett.
good job, Brad. Go ahead.
You can just, if any VAs come to you and need rides or something, there is a service here in town.
Yes,
that says-
yep.
Okay.
I haven't really referred to, it's been brought up in conversation, but, and I haven't, if it's just a quick something, I'm more than willing to take them as well, so. Yeah. So that is their form if it comes up in conversation.
All right,
Appreciate it, Brett.
thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda will be the date change for the June's County Commission meeting. The PSC has, picked a date for their public hearing. It lands on June 4th, which is our county commission meeting day. It will not be in the auditorium, it'll be at our club, because the auditorium is expected to be under construction.
Where's our club? The old.
That's the old KC home.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I expect most, if not all, the commissioners would like to attend that public hearing of the PSC since it's right in town. So the suggestion would be that we move the date of the meeting, that also is right around the primary. So the question with Marvis was there a date that would make it easier, you know, for her office and everybody, so that way we're not trying to overstep on election duties. So the agreed date that you thought would have been just moving it to the Monday, the 3rd, which would just be the day before, instead of June 4th, so that way we could, attend the piece. The 11th.
The 10th was set up for everything.
Right, the 10th, everything gets set up for the election, I mean, and then any time around the election, it's just a nightmare, it's even the 12th and the 13th, everything else gets pushed aside for the election. And even the days after the 4th and a couple days leading up to it, we want time to be preparing for the election.
Right, and then if we go any later, we're gonna be delinquent on our bills, so we.
Right, and so you don't wanna go too late with the meeting, or right, you're going over your 30 days on some of the accounts, so. The ideal time would just be to move it to June 3rd, which would just be that Monday, be moving it one day ahead, so. If that's agreeable terms for everybody,
Monday, June 3rd.
that would be the preferred date to move it if we're going to move it. Somebody wanna make that motion? Commissioner Everly makes a motion to move the commissioner meeting to June 3rd, 2024, 9 AM. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's officially moved to June 3rd, 2024 at 9 AM. All right, next item on the agenda is Sam Rensselaer with maintenance of Langlers and Rice Lake.
Well, it's time for the year again. Fish or bite. First of all, put the boat dock in, somebody would put it in.
Down the Langlers?
As long as there's water there yet.
Okay.
That's same as the last time, I guess.
Have you been talking to Pat or any of them guys?
Yeah,
Been saying
talked to
anything
Pat
about
the other day.
what they think the water's gonna be like?
She's about where she's gonna get for high.
So if anything, it's gonna be lower.
By July, it's probably be 0. They don't know for sure, but
Right, but their projection is it's gonna be bad.
that's
what I heard.
that's all we know. That's all, There's no snow in the mountains.
So the water that's up like it is because they did release it this winter for a little bit, I suppose, and that's
Yeah,
why
well,
it is what it is.
Other than that, it's gonna stay about the same for a while now.
You know, the question always was, even at Langley's, is if the water gets as low as they say it's going to, that we ain't gonna be able to get a low water ramp or anything in there.
No, not unless we put some work on a new one again.
Right, and that's probably not gonna happen, so, but Jennerville?
They're gonna fix Jennerville up when it starts getting lower enough, cause they got the gravel stockpiled out there already and
They're
stuff.
gonna try and get that,
And the one going north, they don't think they're gonna fix that no more, cause nobody uses the damn thing, cause it's all gravel road.
So that's our responsibility in Langler? The dock?
well, the dock, because the Langley's Bay area there is, the county has an agreement with the Corps as far as just kind of the general operation of it and stuff like that, which a lot of times the Corps usually chips in money on anything we have to do down there anyway, but yeah, taking out and putting in the dock, and then Sam takes care of the garbage and the bathrooms when stuff needs to get cleaned or maintained or something, but it's been a pretty good agreement for quite a while.
I don't know what you guys get for, from them guys, or the game and fish, what's it?
Yeah, I'd have to look back into some of the, because
We have 3,500 every year, through grant, 3,500.
right, that just kinda helped out with the general maintenance.
I asked them last year and they never responded back.
That was for rice loaf though, right? That would be-
Two years ago, they gave $1,000 last year, I requested. And they gave
That's what they want, it's really not.
How's everything going with it though? Any changes or anything, or, I mean?
As far as the garbage and stuff,
Right,
it's the same. I'm gonna move to a dumpster, county's dumpster from, corner of Kevin Harris, where you go into his old farm.
Yep.
Up to Arnold, cause down there, everybody uses it. Everybody that goes by there throws their garbage in there.
Yeah. Anywhere there's a dumpster along 1804, it gets filled, so.
Well, you should know.
I know, mom and dad's one at the campground is, it's full whether there's anybody there or not, it's,
So I'm gonna move that, that's county's garbage there.
yeah. I mean, I suppose it's good technically, cause it keeps the ditches cleaner, but at the same time, whoever's maintaining them's got work no matter what, it's all.
Cause they're gonna step down on them this year too, cause cabins over there and stuff, they bring all their garbage over to Beaver Bay Park.
Oh,
How about Rice Lake having trouble down there?
Rice Lake's been good, except the mowing, I don't know who mows it, but there was weeds around the toilet this high last summer. I don't know who's in charge of that. You got,
Do you know who's in charge?
I don't know, are we responsible for mowing or is that Game and Fish? Cause I know they do the maintaining of the parking lot and all that stuff, we just are supposed to do the garbage and everything, but there's always kinda gray area with these lots and stuff, because, like we do the garbage and we take care of the bathrooms, and it's like, well, you're supposed to take the dock and mow it, well, I thought you guys mowed it.
I know the dock was broken.
Well, the Rice Lake dock,
Somebody
we're
did it,
not
so-
supposed to be doing nothing
No,
with,
but I
that's,
called Game and Fish and they came to fix it.
right, so
Who's
that's,
supposed to take care of that?
well, at Rice Lake, the Game and Fish takes care of everything except we take care of bathrooms. That was kind of the agreement, cause they put them bathrooms there, but they didn't wanna maintain it, well, that's, since we had Sam in the agreement with Langley's, we took that over as a part of it, and then we were getting donations.
I know
from
it's
wildlife club
just
and
a
stuff.
garbage too, but I don't know who mows it, cause it was a disaster last summer, it's.
Well, does that do no order, can the guys just spray it?
You don't.
You don't wanna kill all the grass.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, it's
There's noxious weeds along the outside perimeter, that should be sprayed, but I don't, I just have to say hired somebody, you guys are hired, somebody hired somebody.
I guess I'm not quite sure the agreement where that falls, if that's us or them, I guess, I don't know, we'll have to look into that.
so there's no dumpster down there either?
No.
Toilets, nobody been throwing shit in there?
Well,
It was good there last time I was down there, but that's where they're
yeah, you
going.
don't need a dumpster if you have bulk toilets, that's the same thing, isn't it? Everybody in the world hates them, but it is, you don't need a dumpster, it's already one there.
So is there a lot of stuff, a lot of people throw stuff in there?
Yeah, eventually, it's be full.
Now, Sam's not cleaning that part of the dumpster, that's a look for bids. Somebody wants it that one, I don't, but yeah, it's probably something that'll have to get taken care of too, so.
Pumping it, it's probably good yet, but
Right, well, usually, rule of thumb on them is probably every 3 to 5 years, but like I said, if you wait 5 years, you just have that many more beer cans and,
Well, you don't wanna wait like 4 weeks until they're full.
yeah.
So do you have to add water or some chemical there, or what?
No, they just pump them out.
There's nothing else.
I don't know if he puts chemical in them or not.
It's just a hole. It's a big concrete vault.
And then the one at Langler's is, I can call the Corps and see where they just put a new toilet on the east side. The toilet should be replaced, the lid where you sit on, steel lid and stuff, yeah, you know.
Okay.
If you guys, I can get the number and stuff, probably call them and see if you can put one on there, you know. I don't think that costs that much there.
No, and I'm sure they probably have a specific thing that, you know what I mean, they probably have some, we could probably just purchase through them, or they'll work with us on it, that way keep it the same.
Because it's steel lid and you know how people are, can't you fix the toilet? I'm not in charge of that. It's kind of shot, it's steel lid.
Yeah, frostbite. You usually talk to Pat on that, right, or her?
Yeah, I'll talk to Pat or, yeah.
Pat usually, okay.
Because they'll know where they got the toilets, they just put one in. And they got, I think the same size hole and everything.
Yeah, I'm sure they're pretty generic all the way across the way they build them, so usually you can get something, they either have the right idea or something.
And then about trips, I'd like a little pay increase, I haven't had a pay increase for 6 years. I don't, $20 or something, gas is higher than hell this year again.
Well, we don't wanna pay no more for anything, Sam.
Yeah, I know that.
What part of the budget does that come out of, That comes out of the general for that?
$20 ain't a lot, really.
Are you requesting like $20 per trip?
Yeah.
And how many trips you generally make? Usually do it once a week, twice a
Depends
week?
how the fishing is.
Right,
This year probably it won't be till July.
yeah, probably be busy until the water goes down, right, and then after that,
And then last year was a lot, cause fishing, it was good all year.
yeah. So what do you usually do though, like twice a week then if it's busy, or?
You gotta do them twice a week.
Okay,
Weekends, you gotta do it
you gotta do it every
twice
day.
probably even.
Sure,
Cause you probably got 150, 200 boat trailers there on a Sunday and Saturday.
so you're probably averaging maybe more like 4 trips a week when it's busy
Yeah,
then
it's
probably?
really
Like
busy,
2 or
yeah.
3 on the weekends and 1 during the week or something?
If it's 100 above, you don't want them. They
Right,
don't quit when the cans are full, they just keep throwing them down.
right, well, yeah, like you said, if they're not clean, then you start getting complaint calls and then you're doing it more anyway, so.
So 20 ain't a lot really, but
How many trips you look?
Well, you're probably looking at roughly, let's just say an increase of about
50 or 60,
$80 to
$50 or
$100 a
60.
week probably, cause if you make 5 trips, it'd be an extra $20 per trip.
And how many weeks is he on the payroll?
Well, typically, I suppose probably starting this week till probably.
probably the next week, I usually put them out and then I go till October. But if there's no water, it's not gonna be
Right, it'll be a
usable.
lot thinner than on that, so.
You probably get till July this year. He said by July it'll be disaster.
I'd say it's roughly 5 to 6 months, you're looking at 20 weeks, 24 weeks-ish.
But fishing was good
So
last
you're
year all
probably
the way
looking
up
at
till.
$2,000 to $2,400 for the year, roughly. I mean, obviously, if it's a per trip deal, it's not that for sure, but if you were just gonna put a number to it, it'd be about an extra $2,000 or $2,400, so.
Every year is gonna be different, cause if there's no water, it's no work. And if fish really bite, last year was tremendously good.
So, how do you do this? Is it so much a trip? Is that how you guys pay?
Yeah.
Is it so much a mile?
Yeah, we bitch, it's so much per trip, right?
Yep,
Is that,
You're at 170 now, right?
yeah,
170.
Per trip.
right. So you'd be looking at about 190 per trip. And what we do then is usually what he did is kind of roughly the year before is kind of how we budget for it, and it's kind of, it's been pretty similar to those.
I mean, what do we usually, how much do they usually make a year? Around,
Oh, I'd have to look.
you don't know?
I don't have it in front of me here.
She's looking at $760 to $800 a week.
Yeah, probably. Well, I'm not against it, Sam, but we probably have to look at the budget or something and see where, just because I know we have a budgeted number for that, so I hate to make a decision on something that we can't promise, but I'm not against looking into it and checking into it, maybe,
I don't know,
yeah. No, I understand, like you said, gas is more and everything too, you can't really predict that when you're putting your numbers together and stuff, and that's fine, so we'll just have to check in and see if there's any room to, I hate to just run something in the red for that, or, if we can pull something from a different deal or something, we'll look into
you
that.
let me know, Marcy.
Yeah, no, we appreciate what you do, Sam, so I'm not writing you off, but we just gotta
That's
check.
about it, then I'll check the toilet deal and get back to Marcy or somebody or whatever.
Since you talked to them, and see if they have one, or they get a certain one, or what it costs and stuff, and kind of figure it out, we'll look into that.
That's about all the complaints I get.
And the only thing is, we'll talk to Skylar about putting that dock in here as soon as reasonable here and get that.
Yeah,
Usually one of the guys, or, John, some of the guys, Al, they've been around long enough, they know how to put it in. They can do it, so.
should know what to,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
thanks, Sam.
Thank you, guys.
All right, 10 minutes off the schedule now, nice work.
So, who was the president of Wildlife Now?
Skylar.
Van,
You're up.
you want to be?
Yeah, we can, he's underneath your agenda item here, so.
Yeah. He talks, then you can just go to my.
Sure.
You wanna go first?
Okay, so yeah, we got, well, James, you can go first, so.
Okay. Do you want me?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just, seeing if, I could get some gravel on that road that they put it in 60 years ago. And it is a mile line road, but it doesn't go all the way through, and I realized you guys have been doing less and less to, mile line roads that aren't used that much. But, when we purchased that railroad land, I'd be using that rock that was in there if I could, because that'd be much better. But you guys came in there when Alex was in charge and took every stone out of there, every single stone. When we was gone one day up to Bismarck, we come home and everything was gone. In between those two hills where the train was stuck.
Two what?
Right there, yep. He came in,
He stripped all the riprap off the railroad bed.
huh?
He stripped all that rock off that railroad.
All, there isn't a stone to be found. They came in there and took it all, and I don't know if it was beneficial for them or not, cause they got so many flat tires from the spikes. But, you haven't had to maintain the road hardly whatsoever, cause Dad wouldn't let you come in because he had that old sickle mower and didn't wanna wreck it. So he graded it, and he had a snow blower for the, on his 50-20, but I sold all that so Mom would have the money. But I just bought a tractor and a snow blower, so you won't have to anymore do that either. You only came in like once anyway, probably during the winter, and you didn't even make it in that one year. You guys got stuck with two of your maintainers, and a third one came out to pull them out, and they just left it like that. I had to hire somebody to come in and blow I couldn't even get out the snowmobile. I had to go out there and shovel at an angle, cause they made great, they didn't even make it to the corner. They only made it in about 30 feet from the railroad tracks. Cause they waited till the end of the day. If they'd have come in the morning, it would have came right out, but it was a warm day, everything warmed up. They came in right in the evening when it was cooled down, so it froze up, and it just caused them a headache. And I did return a chain I found. There's some money for you. They lost one of their logging chains, and I found it. I took it back to
Is that the trail that goes?
The reason it turns like that is because county didn't wanna go through the hill where the train went.
Well, I'd imagine the other problem is probably the sight distance from the top of the hill, I suppose, you couldn't put it on. the
Well, if
section.
they would've taken that out, you'd been able to see the traffic better than where it's at now.
Right, but I know they have sight distance rules, so I'm assuming they moved it further down rather than, and right, then they wouldn't have to cut through the hill and.
I believe
Does
that.
the railroad track go over the top of that road then, originally?
Yeah.
That you just drove over the railroad track there, right? It was flush.
Yeah, well, no, there were boards there, I mean, they.
Right, but I mean, basically it was just flush with the, you just drove over the top of the railroad
Yeah.
track there, yeah, so. I suppose you didn't wanna maybe cross it at too much of an angle either, cause it almost looks like they made it perpendicular right there too, but off the highway and the railroad, and everything, so. So you're asking for gravel, James? Is what you're asking for, or?
Yeah, because it's been so long since there's gravel, that road it actually looks pretty nifty now because it's flattened out to where it's big enough to be a highway, you know, it's down, so whenever anybody comes in, especially right there by that turn where it's white there, that's the worst spot. So I always go out there and put a sign up, don't come in if it's raining, cause they just tear the road up, I mean, last year I didn't even use the road, I went up against the fence and drove on the sod all the way to the house, because it was just tearing the road up too much, so I drove along the fence line.
So there's just that short stretch that's on the section.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, like you said, they're right off of where that turns and goes straight east, and that part's on the section line, and then once it gets, past the house, and it looks like it just basically turns
Yeah.
on the trail and then goes.
They made it all the way down to the bottom of the hill.
Cause is there another farmyard on the other side of the creek there, Jim, or where is that?
No, that's where the barn is.
Oh, okay, that's what's going on there.
That used to be the doggone lumber yard, right across from the creamery. You guys probably don't remember that. There was a big lumber yard. We had four lumber yards, I think, or three. Right there beside it was a Green Lantern, but now it's a Happy Hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that big, the Chevron station, that used to be a great big lumber yard. And that was a two-story part of it down by our corral. Dad moved it.
For the portion of your driveway that's not on the section line there, do you have an easement for the other two landowners that driveway goes through?
Oh, they go through there all the time.
Is that land there is Wendy Wangler's and that one over there is Everly's? So
Which one's Wendy Wangler's?
That little portion of the old railroad bed.
the county wanted to do anything through there, I think you'd have to work.
He can't do nothing with that because you got 33 feet from the center of the road over for your, what do you call that, right away. Plus, you'd have to put in on both sides of the road, you'd have to put in a cattle one of those cattle things. So the cattle wouldn't, cause he tried that and Alex told him, he said, yeah, you go out, cause he was gonna buy some cheap ones to put in there, and Alex told him, no, you gotta put in some that are approved. He would have to put one on my side and one on his side, so the cattle wouldn't get out. And it's only, if it's from there to there, that's about it. You know, I mean,
Kinda looks like the fence lines are off of that road. I mean, even going through Wendy's piece, I wonder if there wasn't some right of way created and deeded in there too or something, you know what I mean?
when they came out there, I had that, surveyed. And when they came out and surveyed that, the center of the road was,
Sure. I mean, on that part that kind of deviates to the southwest there, I mean, it almost looks like the fences were built off of there too, almost like that was like a right of way at some point, or that's just how it looks anyway, I don't know, from here.
I looked yesterday in the records, besides the section line easement, there's no other right of ways
So there's no-
added or,
they didn't
other
create
than,
one.
you know, he got this platted and then
Sure.
just showed access through the section line, there's nothing else added that I seen.
So basically, it's just that part where it curves east and then where it curves to the north, and that would all be off the section line then, so it's just that piece there, but, so.
That curves south, doesn't it? That curves south coming out of his yard.
I was going backwards from the highway, so they were saying curves east and then curves north up into the house,
But since you guys put it in, wouldn't that curb be included in it? We didn't say, don't take it off the county line. That was, you know, county's decision. And then Herb Ketchum, being the nice guy as he is, he let us do that. But he let, also when Vetter was across the highway, he let him put a road in too. Herb was a stand-up guy. And a good neighbor.
Yeah, that's how it was years ago. Good neighborly deal.
Huh?
That was how it was years ago, good neighborly deal.
Yes, but he was exceptionally
Yeah.
good neighbor. So was Better, but Herb, they were always over the house with the folks. Even when he had his girlfriend. Yeah. They didn't even sit together in church. Because of gossip.
So it's basically a quarter mile from the highway up to the, where it turns and goes into the house.
That's about 8 mile, I'd say.
That's right, I came up with 0.23 miles if he did it the way he measured it there, so.
Did it? We have been walking further than I thought. Wasn't supposed to be walking with this thing on. It's good to know.
Well, anybody got any opinions? Sounds like yes, but nobody wants to go first.
Well, the thing is, not all of it's on the section.
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, that's the, I mean, the trouble with it is this. It's on a section line, and like you said, it came off of the highway with that approach and all that
To
stuff.
make it easier on them.
Just square it out.
You go back and you vote where you're doing it on something that isn't, you know.
Well, and the same trouble, I mean, that's where the, I mean, the difficulty comes in, it's kinda like the Beaver Bay deal down there, where now, I mean, if you're putting gravel on a road that's not really built up and getting maintained and stuff too, it's. Yeah, and that's the hard part, cause I mean, that road, I mean, it looks like it probably was built up at one time there, it must have some kind of a.
Oh,
There's gotta be some kind of a ditch there and stuff.
It's 4 foot deep right there by the railroad tracks. I mean, right on the other side there, it goes down like 4 feet, 5 feet. And then all along the road, it's all of 3 or 4 foot higher than the ditch.
Does anybody use that road to go past your place?
Yeah, Kenny Schneider does, and Myron, well, Myron don't know more.
Suppose they got some
Now,
farm around there.
Benny Wall.
So there's that hayfield or that alfalfa there, and then I suppose there's pasture up there past that too, so.
Yeah, and then they go through the gate, they put a new fence up and have a gate at the other end so they can go into Customs there.
Did you want the county to do that too, or?
Well, I pretty much, I appreciate it if they did. I mean, the only reason I'm going for it is because I'd much rather have those big rock that we had. Cause that'd hold up a whole lot better than gravel would, but you guys ate it up, so that's the only reason I had the balls come in here and say anything. You know, I've been asking for the last 20 years since I came back, you know, and nobody ever said anything, you know. So I finally, like, I talked to his dad and brother, I think, at Hazelton, when my uncles had that,
Oh, you probably talked to my dad, yeah.
yeah, and I think I called you too.
I don't think so, I think.
You're back there by McCauley's, right?
Yeah, I think I talked to you at Napa one day, is probably where I got you.
Maybe.
That's where you and I talked about it, so. I didn't realize it was on a section line like that much, I mean, cause I thought that road seems like it curves more, but it actually looks pretty straight right there, other than that curve going towards the highway, so.
Yeah, I don't think county would have put it in if it wasn't county.
Right.
Right. They did it for a reason.
Well, like you said, that's kind of a built-up piece of road, and then obviously there's other guys using it going back to, I'm assuming haul hay and maybe even haul cattle off of there too, so I mean, that section line does get used, and I mean, we kinda have been prioritizing residences, so that's kind of something to consider there too.
I'd be okay with going from the curve at a point, going up into the yard, coming off to the highway and gravel that area.
Yeah.
Cause I guess the other question is kind of what Joe brought up too, I mean, if there's no right of way established, then that's really kind of a private trail going through that railroad bed and stuff, I mean, that's kind of, I'm surprised they didn't create a right of way if the county built it, cause that was usually kind of what they did, I mean, when you look at some of the other roads, they usually created.
I just assumed it had a right of way.
Right, I mean, as Josh didn't find them, they're usually pretty easy to find, they're
Yeah,
usually
I'll look
attached to the
again,
parcel.
cause I quickly looked through it, just on the plat, no other.
I mean, that would be the only question, is you hate to start doing something that's not on the public right of way like that, otherwise you get yourself in a pickle, it seems like, so. That would be the question, you know, where to stop and start, I guess. So.
But since you put it in, wouldn't you be?
Well, I mean, cause the question we run into, you know, James, with this is, you know, if the county was doing things on property that's not technically public right of way. So usually what they did is they created public right of way there, you know, that would be deeded, you know, they would go through the proper landowners, but one question too is I suppose the railroad probably wasn't very easy to work with versus like a landowner, so there's probably a reason why there wasn't a right of way there, so.
Well, maybe you have to look through Ketchum's right away.
Well, that's where I wonder what the situation was, cause generally from what I've seen is when them guys were building roads in the 60s and 70s, if they needed to get across something, I mean, even look at the old highway, I mean, they did that the right way and that's, you know. So there's usually a piece of right of way until you get to the section line, and then from there you didn't need, you know.
Oh, when I checked on Old 83, there were some areas where the easements were not filed.
Yeah, and so I suppose it depends on, you know, which
Yeah,
easement.
it happens.
Yeah. I
It's
suppose
all up to that landman that was doing it, getting those
Yeah.
easements.
some road superintendents or county commissioners were better at it than others, or, you know, more thorough about it, and the other guys just came in and did it, so.
Well, where it's not, where it curves, if you could at least leave the gravel there, I could level it. I bought a tractor, but I have to get a box, you know. Like I said, I'd much rather have the big rock that you guys took, I mean, nobody asked and it was done by the time we got back from Bismarck.
And it was, you bought that right away?
My mom did.
And they
Yeah,
came in and took the rock off?
Huh?
And the county came in and took the rock off that bed?
Yeah, it's between the hills, nobody can see them from the highway. You know, where that train got stuck. Come home and it was just gone, yeah, there's not a rock to be had.
And at that time, the railroad didn't own that yet?
No, they said they bought it back, his mother bought it back.
Right, but I'm curious too,
back.
did they, because at the original point, didn't the city end up with all that and then they sold it back?
We bought it from the city.
Right, well, I'm just kinda wondering if there wasn't a timeline thing where maybe the county or the city took it while it was still theirs or something, I mean, that's what I'd be curious to find out.
I usually think Alex.
That's why it doesn't sound right.
No.
I'm not saying one thing or the other, but that just, it sounds like there maybe could have been a timeline issue with some of that too, but anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess, so.
So you bought that.
I don't know, I guess, Josh, if you wanna check in and see if there was just a little more right away on that deal, and then, I don't know, I mean, what's the opinion, you guys, you wanna put a little gravel on that section line piece there, or?
Well, the section line part, I'd be good with that. But the part going in through those other two properties, you did.
With graveling, and we're probably gonna be spreading it with the blade too then, because like you said, James is probably not gonna have the equipment to spread it on that section line like that, so.
That'd only take, what, 2-3 loads?
Couldn't tell you, I don't know
I
what
couldn't
the
say
shape the
either.
road's in, so.
It's not in that bad shape, I
Did
drove
you look
down
at
it,
it,
yeah, I
Scott?
drove down it, like, I'd actually probably try to pull some and recover a little bit of the stuff that's been thrown over there, like.
Pretty narrow,
Have to widen it out just a little bit, you know, cause it's narrow.
I would think it's pretty narrow, that older
Right,
style
right.
roads are usually.
Yeah, where they bladed the last time, it's probably that far down lower.
Yeah. We'd have to do a little bit of work, it's not, not a lot, but the other question is if technically that, we're not 100% sure whose that first portion of the road is, then we're gonna drive across it,
If the county put it in there just for,
you know.
That's been there for how long, Jim?
that should be the county.
60 years.
How many?
60.
60 of us, Rick.
Yep, I'm 73, I was 13 when I put it in.
I don't know if there would be an issue with that really.
It shouldn't really be, because if the county put it in that way for safety or whatever.
I think so.
Well, I don't know, like if I mean,
Who knows?
right, because if we put a rut in there, then who's gonna be responsible for fixing it?
Ketchum owns the dirt on the south side.
We're driving across it to put gravel on a section line, if we, you know,
Pick your day.
we're right, but I mean,
Well,
I'm
I
always
mean,
looking for the worst case scenario, not the best.
right, well, I mean, this is just kind of falls under that same conversation as that, you know, I mean, there's just lots of places like this out there, like, I mean,
There's no more harmony with people.
right.
You know, unless they get the adjoining landowners to grant them the easement.
Well, that would need to be something we should probably just look into a little more before you do that, cause just, if it's kind of the conversation we had, just cause it was done before, doesn't mean it's probably the right way to do it either, so.
Well, I would look into Herb Ketchum's land there and find
Yeah.
out if he.
Yeah, Bonnie.
See if there's an easement on that Ketchum land.
I'd say have Josh probably look into it a little more, just to see if there's any
That's right.
right of way type stuff and
If
everything.
nothing else, wouldn't it be grandfathered in? I mean,
It's a pretty loose term.
well, I mean, it's either that or the county would have to build a new road, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well.
They'd have to
or
make
not
it
do
go
anything
through the
with it.
hill.
I don't know, I mean, it's.
I mean, if it's a mile line road, you'd have to continue on with it,
Well, then
straight
you gotta-
out.
Then you gotta get permission from the highway department too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know, they're just, we should.
that's a
try
lot
to-
bigger evil than throwing a little gravel down, and I'll maintain it once it's done.
Well, I just think it's one of them deals, we should probably just double check some of these other things before we get ourselves into a quandary or something, I think that would be good to.
See, that could have been the highway's responsibility there too, as far as, site.
Well, it's another one of the questions, cause you also had the railroad involved at that time, which is, the railroad dealt with things a lot differently than anybody else, so I'm curious, I'd be surprised that there isn't any paperwork.
There's paper.
There's gotta be something, cause even the railroad wasn't just like, yeah, sure, go ahead and build across it, they usually were pretty dot your i's and cross your t's, not? I mean.
Yeah, somebody came out and put that timber in there for crossing.
Yeah, so I would have to think there's gotta be.
There's gotta be an
There's
easement
gotta
on
be
Ketchum land.
something.
There has to be somewhere on that described piece of land. There's gotta be something showing. Has to be.
I don't know what Dad and Herb came up with, but, I thought it was pretty awesome.
Well, cause I mean, you got highway right away, right up next to railroad right away, it's got, I mean, that's not just neighborhood agreement stuff at that point, I mean, both of them are pretty thorough agencies that, they like their notarizing and their paperwork stuff, they're.
And why it was put at an angle is probably for visibility.
The state's 100-foot backset, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you dang, you gotta be up to
And
the
then the
railroad
railroad's
right away
usually,
right
what,
there. 75 at least, I
Yeah.
thought.
Oh, that's-
Minimum, so you, I mean, you almost gotta have, there's almost no county right away in between, you know, there's gotta be some kind of right away, there's gotta be.
I know the state,
Well-
state has 100 feet.
State is, yeah.
I would
It could
think.
be 120.
Oh, that's 100 feet right,
Yeah.
yeah, the state has 100 feet right there by the railroad crossing. I mean,
Yeah.
from the highway in,
And then it was railroad.
and then it switches back to 50 feet on the other side of the hill.
So like this one, they increased to 150 because of the
Did they?
slope. Every
Okay, yeah,
big slope, they always increase
Yeah,
it, so
they
they got
increased.
150 here, and then this one will be 100 down here where there's no slope
Yeah.
like that, so.
Yeah, well, I would say we should do a little more research on that, just to make sure we're not stepping on right away toes and things like that before we go too wild, but.
And BN did the same thing, just because of the fact they owned all that land.
Right.
Built the railroad, and then they conveyed the land back to the landowner, or the surface owner.
There's gotta be something
Well, I
going
don't think the
on.
railroad ever did that though. They never conveyed land back to the landowner.
No, they gave it to Lytton,
He gave it out.
and then Lytton sold it back to us.
Well, how far did Whitten buy this railroad? How far north
In
and south?
Emmons County, I suppose, I don't
I
know.
think Lytton had it all the way up past Hazelton.
Yeah, they got most of
They
the
did.
north half.
So they-
Yeah, they should have just gave it back to the landowners, but they didn't.
It was the LIDC.
It was the LIDC.
The LIDC, not the city of Lynn, but the LIDC actually ended up.
Bought all that right?
Yes, cause even up at the city of Hazelton and north up there, those landowners had to buy it. from them.
Same ones that have that,
Like
like
Mike Gafford
all
bought that
those
north of
stuff on
Hazelton.
lots there on the north end of Lytton that they never sold one of.
Yeah.
They have water to it and sewer, and they'd rather go up east and
Did the LIDC, when that railroad was abandoned, all the material,
They built more.
railroad ties, everything?
I don't know.
They bought the tract of it.
I think the LIDC, yeah, I don't know if they sold.
they sold the
ties,
track and they sold the
But
ties.
when they sold the land, did you get the track or did they sold?
No.
it first?
That was sold, they came in and took all that,
'Cause I remember all the railroad.
they made big money,
It's getting sold, so.
big time.
Well, see, and that's what I'm curious, like even the conversation about the rock, did the county buy the rock from the LIDC and come take it? And then just saying like, there might be some timeline stuff there where the county might have purchased that rock for a dollar. I don't know, I mean, those are things that.
I don't think so.
See, they took the rock was there,
But,
it's nowhere else that they.
I would say for the sake of discussion, I think, I mean, for the sake of time too, is that we probably just have to look into the right way a little more. Josh, do you wanna make sure you get Kathy on that? And
Yeah.
see if you can find something that would at least show that we have some access there, but if not, I mean.
In section 32, 13376. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'd say we have to check into some right of way stuff there, Jim, just to make sure we're not driving over other people's land.
So if they find out you don't have a right of way, then what?
I don't know, we'll have to discuss that.
Road?
I don't know. I have to
See,
discuss.
it's more expensive doing that than messing with that little bit of gravel.
Sure. Well, I'd say
Who
we'll
owns the
consider.
catching land now?
Ronnie.
Bonnie does, okay, and Rodney, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they grant you, I'm sure, an easement.
Oh,
In a heartbeat.
Well, that's probably the proper route to go if there was some kind of an easement.
been there 60 years, I don't think it's gonna make any difference now.
But we'll have to, probably do some double checking into that too, so.
76.
But if they did it, that'd be fine too, then you just make the road out straight.
Well, I think we'll do some checking into it, I think we'll get to the opinion. Let's say for the sake of time, we'll probably just, we could probably just move it under old and unfinished business for next month and see if we find any evidence on something like that. Okay. Anybody else got anything? Well, we'll let you know. We'll check into it a little more.
How long do you think I should wait till you let me know?
Well, I'm thinking about next month's meeting, Josh, we'll know if there's a right of way or not, and then we can make a decision off that, if there's some kind of established right of way or something needs to be.
How long will that take you?
Well, it'll be the next month's meeting, so it'll be May.
That's fine with me.
May 7th, I think is
Like I
the-
said, I've been waiting 20 years since I've been back. I came back to take care of the folks, so they don't go to the old people home.
Well, we'll probably discuss it May 7th, that'll be the next, hopefully by then we'll have some more information.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks, Jim.
I
thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you, man.
I have some information on Langford if you want it here.
Okay,
In 2023, we spent $15,640 at Langlers and $3,230 at Rice Lake.
okay,
I budgeted $18,000 for Langlers in '24 and $8,000 in Rice Lake.
okay. So there's probably a little bit more room in Langlers versus what we budgeted, okay.
Yeah, they helped with game and fish, or, not game and fish, but the wildlife club would help out, because they were gonna contribute every year.
Can you find out?
That's Daryl Benby.
I sent him a letter last year and he never responded. I'll send another one.
Yeah, you have to find
He's
out,
got these.
we're gonna have to find out who's on the board there.
Can you find out for sure?
Yeah, I'll find out, I'll call and ask if they can get some more money.
Okay.
Skylar.
Morning, Commissioners.
Yep.
Okay, we'll start out, I know last meeting we were talking about, they were gonna possibly do some paving over in Wishick. I guess that funding did go through, they are scheduled to bid, their bid opening will be April 12th. I guess we're gonna just see if we wanna bid out, we'll call it the golf course road. If we wanna, bid that out, I mean, I don't know if there's a better time to do it than now. I mean, we'd probably be the most competitive bids if we bid, I mean, we'd probably bid it out, the bid opening, what they put, May 2nd would be our bid opening. So that would be, give them time to award that, and then the contractor that gets that possibly would wanna look into this too, since it's relatively close.
So we basically have a prepared plan to put it out for bids though, right?
Right, we're pretty much, if you guys decide to do that, then we'll just make a motion to accept the bid, or the final plans and specifications and stuff, and then advertise for bids, but, the engineers did an engineer's estimate. They shot it, they kinda put it high, they said, not 100% sure where it's gonna come in, since we're in that weird area, like, either gonna get it out of Bismarck, or hopefully these guys do it. Probably a total of 407,000. That's with, including engineering, so. I mean, if we advertise for bid and we don't like it, we always have the option to reject it, so. That being said, not 100% sure where we'd find this money. I mean, we'd probably have to come out of like the permit funds or something, cause we pretty much, unless there's, I mean, if we see the prices and then we think we can do it, then we'll have to think about that, but. I mean, like I said, probably one of the better times to do it. I mean, not on a money aspect end of it, it's never good on the money aspect, but time-wise, when we have a project that's closer, we'll probably slight chance of getting a better competitive bid. So, like, if we were to bid it next year with no work, it'd probably just come all out of Bismarck and then.
Well, would we get a bid from somebody that's not part of the wishing deal? Just so we got a.
We could, I mean, it'll be open for everybody, I mean, it's.
I think the expectation is you have a contractor in the area, you're hopefully gonna get a little more reasonable bid or something.
Right.
The expectation, right? I mean, that's
our expectation, and there's not saying that we couldn't get one out of Minot, or Bismarck, sorry, excuse me, and they get their hot mix from the guys over. You know, they share, you know, not essentially saying it's gonna be the same contractor, you know, it's one chance to get hopefully more competitive bid. And we don't have to do anything either, like, it's just, we talked about it and.
That's really breaking up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's there, I mean, no plan is not a plan, like, we're gonna have to do something but, I mean, will it last another year? Yes, I mean, it's not like it needs to be done this year, but, so.
Well, I guess my concern, I guess, or the first real concern is even if the bid comes in way under the engineer's estimate, you're still looking at 300,000, 350,000. I mean, if they're saying 400,000, they like somebody's gonna come in and do it for 80 grand. So,
right.
I mean, the question is can you come up with $300,000 to $400,000 really that wasn't budgeted for and really isn't anything allocated for? So that's where I mean, in my mind, I think, I don't know if it's even worth putting it out for bids unless we figure out a way to fund it there. Cause putting it out for bids when we have no plans on funding it is just a waste of everybody's time. That's the question, so. Are we willing to spend $300,000 to $400,000 that we probably didn't anticipate? You know, that's the question.
How much is a patch fix?
Well, we already did patch.
Yeah, we patched it, I mean, it's alligating, I mean, depending on this spring, I mean, you might get a little bit that might need to be patched, but it'd be minimal at this point, I mean, everybody that drives it's pretty used to it, I mean, they understand it needs to be done, but it's not like it's treacherous or anything.
I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, but that's just the only question, is there?
I mean, we're to the point, if we don't move forward with it now, we're gonna stripe it we're gonna put the stripes back on it, cause that needs to be done.
Yeah.
You know,
And they were on the mile.
Yeah.
I didn't take note of it after we talked about it, they were on there.
After the decision's made here, then we're gonna we're gonna stripe all of our roads, like the ones up in Braddock, Kintyre, Langers Bay.
Is that a law that they have to?
Yeah, like we're way behind the times. It should have been done, so. And it's relatively not expensive to do that, I mean, I got the engineer's estimate to stripe everything, I think it's like 50,000. I mean, which seems like a lot, but I mean, we're 16 miles and that's center lane and, edge striping, so. So if whatever decision's made here today, then we're gonna either hold off on that piece or we'll just add it and then get it going, so.
Do we have the money to do that?
I mean, in theory, the only place to take it from would probably be the permit fund, because as far as budgeting, you can't really allocate from another fund because we didn't budget for this project in it, so. Unless you do this project, but you're gonna have to steal the funds from something else, gravel crushing or what, or the like, you know, I mean.
Right.
I mean, technically, yeah, we'd have the money for it, but you're gonna have to
Steal from people.
300,000 to 400,000 out of the, like, the road department, county road and bridge, and you're gonna have to take out of other things, whatever that would be. I mean, if you can do that, then yes, we can fund it, but I don't think we can fund it while also maintaining some of our other things we budgeted for. That's the big discussion. Or taking it out of the permit fund, which granted, the permit fund does have those funds, but, that's a pretty big chunk to take out for a pretty short portion of road.
Right.
Where you could, if you took 300,000 out of the permit fund to match a couple $1 million project, I feel like that would be a little more, you know, just more efficient, proper use of the funds rather than just expending it on this certain project, which I'm not gonna downplay the importance of pavement on that road, especially to those that use it, and the county included, but
Right.
it's just so expensive to maintain such a short piece of road, it's just unreal, like, I mean, having it go back to gravel sounds
We
awful.
wait a year, would the price be, I suppose, be higher though,
Don't know.
I mean, the consensus on the street is they've kind of leveled off. You know, you're not getting those big hikes, but it's an election year. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, you're gonna go up a little bit. I mean, it goes up every year, but.
Theoretically, nothing gets cheaper.
Right,
You know, the
but-
waiting game used to be working, but now it seems like if the oil goes down, the labor goes up, it's tough, it's.
I don't think it would go up enough not go ahead and wait a year. Like, it's not like if we do it this year, we're gonna save.
the other thing is finding a
200,000.
contractor that'd be around next year.
Right, and that's,
How much is that a mile?
just a shade over a mile, I believe.
Well, I guess my practical thought process comes in that we've been looking at paving that east-west of Strasburg. I mean, the proper way to do it would be to go through, we got our next preliminary budget coming up in June, would be to try and budget this process and try and, you know, that would be the proper way to do it rather than stealing from a budget now. Especially because one thing I know just from the road department, our discussions is we like the idea of hiring out some of that gravel hauling. That's probably what would have to pay the price to pave this road. If I'm gonna spend a couple $100,000 on county funds, I'd rather gravel dozens of miles of road versus paving 1 mile. If we're going to move forward with it, like you said, I don't think a year costs us 100% of the price. It's not gonna double in a year, and if it does, I guess we're probably not doing it next year either, but there's a very good chance it stays the same next year. And if you would combine that with maybe the Strasburg project, and you know, you could maybe get a couple of them done, we budget for it. Maybe there's a scenario of some state funding through their revolving funds and stuff. I think we should probably approach it from a planned project rather than just going, hey, we got somebody in the area, let's just go for it.
Isn't there grant money or grants to be had on some of these federal aid roads to submit?
Well, we
Like
did.
that mile and like,
That one would probably qualify for some funding, but this road I know doesn't, because it doesn't meet
Right.
any requirements really that, it's not CMC, it's not really,
I mean,
it's county road essentially.
we submitted some of our federal aid roads for different funding. I mean, we didn't do the asphalt, cause,
Right.
I mean,
like in some of them asphalt roads that are really getting bad, like that mile, does that have to be lifted up and peeled off and chipped and then,
it
Place
depends
it in
on
there.
what they probably mill it and then overlay
and
it.
then overlay,
Probably
right?
take like an inch off of
Yeah.
it and then go up 2 or 3
Inch or
inches.
two and then
or
do some
something.
patchwork and then,
Cause it's getting tough in a lot of spots.
yeah,
It's sinking in.
it
You
is.
get water set and it only gets worse.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with moving it to next year's like trying to budget for it,
I think
we'll just have to,
Well, I think you
it's gonna
have
have to
It's
be
such
like a
big-
priority, but.
If it was $80,000 and you could squeak 20 out of a couple budget funds and make it work, I think it'd be different when you're talking, you know, like I said, best case scenario, $300,000.
Right.
And that is a stretch. That, like you said, engineers' estimates 10%, they're not that far off. So
Right.
their estimate's 420-ish, you're looking at 380 to 500, so
Right.
you're not gonna get a bit, if you're not willing to even consider 250,000 right now or something, then we're wasting your time on a bid, I feel. And I think just putting it out there for that sake is just gonna be a waste of time. You'd be better off to, like you said, go through this next budget cycle, see if we can make something work.
Well, would it be smart just to get a bid from them, to have a little guideline to go by next year, what we're looking at in the budget?
I mean, if
I
that
guess
was,
the engineers.
if that was the
submitted,
case,
so
I would
we
probably
know.
use the engineer's estimate. I think they're gonna be really close. I don't think they're gonna be twice what a bid would be. Cause obviously the engineer's estimate, they took into effect current markers from other projects, other bid quantities, labor quantity, they're close. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, after this project gets bid, the one in Wishick, you know, you might have a better understanding of what this market trend's doing, maybe it's gone down a little bit.
I do agree with you on one thing, it would be interesting to maybe see what a company would bid it versus what the engineer said, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there is,
Just out of
with
curiosity.
mileage and stuff, you're right, it would, I guess in
It
that
doesn't
respect,
cost us nothing, does it?
but it costs a little bit, I suppose, for the bid preparation and stuff, but.
Yeah, and then we'd have to advertise in the paper.
So you're gonna have a few $1,000 in
Right.
some advertising and other stuff, but
That's a small one.
I don't disagree with the fact it'd be nice to see what the contractors think of the project.
Yeah.
Because like you said, an engineer's estimate, I mean, I'm giving them a lot of credit, and I know they're close, but they don't know everything either. so
No, I mean,
it maybe wouldn't be, you know, now that you say it, there probably wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe bid it, just to even see what they're looking like, or, you know, what they think.
And what they think and what they recommend to do on it, cause they come over and look at it, no
Yeah.
doubt.
well, I mean, they're gonna probably just go off the engineer's plans, what the engineers spec that, you know, so much patchwork and then whatever the 3 inches overlay or mill and overlay, so.
I guess I would be curious to see how close the engineers are to it, you're right. I mean,
I-
contractor might look at it as a really bad opportunity for them, and it doesn't fit nothing, they could be way over their estimate, and then that would really make a decision too, cause, I mean, the decision's gonna have to get made at some point, if we keep pushing the pavement up, at some point it's gonna be unsavable, and then we're almost gonna have to consider putting it back to gravel, or, yeah, you can push it out for a while, but eventually it'll get so bad that
Right.
it'll be unworkable, and like you said, in some spots, and dips are gonna get so bad.
They get bad, the
We have
worst.
to dig them all the way out, well, now you're starting to look at,
We're getting close to that point of,
we've been
Some of those roads are getting tough,
pushing it too long on the pavement, so.
but I feel this gravel deal to bring in whoever it'll be again, to get more gravel on these roads is a big plus for the people out there.
Yes, I would agree with that completely. If I was gonna have to, choose where to spend those funds, I think the gravel hauling was a pretty good success, so.
right, but I mean, then, well, I mean, that can be a different, we'll have to have that discussion after we make a decision on this then, so.
I guess I really don't have a problem with putting it out for bids, cause I do kind of agree with you. It'd be interesting to just see what they come out in at for budgeting for next year, if we are gonna move forward with it. The engineer's estimate is probably pretty close, but we don't know that for sure, so, I mean, I would put my money on it being pretty close, but it all depends on each contractor and how they view it too, so.
Why spend money if we're not gonna do it anyway? A couple $1,000 or whatever it's gonna.
I guess the only agreement is kinda like what Commissioner Materi said, it does give you an idea of what they think it's gonna cost, at least if you wanna budget for it next year. I mean, the engineer's estimate is useful, but.
I don't know, just an opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, if they know an engineer was working on it already, they know, those contractors know that they're gonna be pretty high.
Well, right, and that's where I still feel like the engineer's estimate's probably gonna be very close, we probably could budget off of it, so. I think either way, it doesn't really matter, but I don't think it's a bad idea.
I'm fine either way.
Well, if you decide to do it, I'll just need a motion to approve plans and specifications and advertise for bid.
Mhm.
And the bid opening we've scheduled for May 2nd. May 2nd, at 10 AM. And that contract will just, if you proceed, then you'll have to sign that contract, that's the only thing, so. If you don't decide to do anything, then that contract, you don't need to do anything with that.
I guess it does bring up one other thing, I mean, if the engineer's estimate is around 400,000, I don't think we wanna spend any more than that anyway. And so, I mean, really, it really doesn't matter, cause if the engineer's estimate's already more than we wanna spend, either the bids are gonna come in cheaper than that, and if they come in more than that, then we're, so, yeah, probably wouldn't have to, yeah, probably will look at that a little. Save anything, like you said, if we're gonna budget it, we can budget it off an engineer's estimate, I'd say we're probably as good as anything, so.
We're just doing this just for.
Yeah.
Right, it was just, it was a continuation of the discussion we've had, if they were gonna do it, then, you know, and that's
Well,
fine.
really, if you think about it, so let's just say that the engineer's estimate is roughly 400,000, we budget for that, we put it out for bids and it comes in at 600,000-700,000, well, we're either gonna figure something else out or not do the project, so I guess getting a bid really probably wouldn't help us. Yeah.
Just food for thought.
That was good.
Good discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so then I guess gravel hauling, like, do we wanna take some money out of the permanent fund? Cause that's the only place we have money to move gravel this year, pretty much, 'cause
I think we should.
it's April, and
We should do something like.
budgets, I mean, those projects last month, we're gonna take a little bit of hit, we're gonna have to find some money on those to do some stuff. We have some big culverts that we should replace this year too, try to do that in-house, and there's 3 10-footers down there by Devin Ballers, just, it'd be west of his place. There's 2 10-footers now, the water study calls for 3 10-footers, and the culverts are 150,000 just for the culverts. So, yeah. What, sorry,
How
what's that?
long a culvert?
About, I believe it's 80 feet or whatever, we're gonna extend it to, I mean, they're gonna come in 3 3-foot sections each culvert, you know, and that's including the bands, and then they're actually gonna cut them at a 45 and then step them back, so they're all lined up nice instead of being jagged, since it sits in there skewed a little bit, so, I mean, that's a project that we probably should really move forward with, because there's a hole in there, and then it's just a complete drop off, like there's not a lot of room for error.
So it's a 10-foot diameter culvert, 80 feet long.
Right, and then we need 3 of them like that in there.
That's a silo.
Well, I believe that's what they used in there, because I had guys from True North down looking at it,
Yeah,
and they never seen a culvert like that, they're like, it must have been like a silo or
probably was, I
something
mean, that's
like that.
huge, that's unreal.
So I mean,
And that's
that's,
steel that's in there, or is that cement?
it's steel, there's
Is
2
it?
steels in there, and they tried to cement this, head walls, and,
They did, right?
yeah, and then they put grader blades in there, I mean, they've been
It's been getting doctored for years.
doctored for years, I mean, that's just one of a few in this county that are straight up and down like that, and that's a pretty bad one, and the velocity's so bad there, that's why they were calling for 3 10-footers, so, I mean, that's, like I said, that's just for the culverts, that's not, we're gonna try to do that in-house.
What do you have an engineer look at that?
Yeah.
Based on the topography and all?
Yep,
See, like by Turnus, did you do the same there?
no, because that's not that, no, we didn't need to do that, because there's such a big scour hole there that, at Devon Ballers, or I guess what is that road? 94th, 95th, something like that.
What are you doing on that road there by Turnus on the north side, where those culverts stick out so?
Well, we're gonna blend that in with topsoil now, coming up this spring, I'm gonna haul in a little bit of topsoil and blend it in there. Like, those culverts were in there, the state upsized the culvert years ago, I guess, and then that would push it over the road, so we just added an additional culvert.
Did they set so high?
Those, they're set at what they were originally at, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just upsized, or we just added an additional culvert, cause it would always run over that road if you get a big runoff.
Yeah, I grew up there, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, how many times did it run over? Quite a few, right?
Not too often, I mean, there's watershed coming there, coming
Yeah.
from the east.
I mean, it depends on your year too, you know, like this year, obviously, nothing's gonna probably, unless we get a bunch of rain, so. But no, we're just gonna come out and just blend those in, dress them up, I mean, they were put in last fall late, so.
Well, I think the big deal with the gravel hauling is you should probably put something together that's biddable,
Okay,
and we can, you know, cause if we're gonna if we're gonna take money from the permit fund, or we're gonna do some kind of deal with that, then we're gonna need to know exactly what you wanna do, or at least close to what you wanna do, and try and, you know, get something efficient.
So which way are we going this time? Which route?
Well, we're gonna have to go out more like in the, I'll have to bring it out of the Bosch pit probably, cause like that gravel, that contract's coming due, so we need to get.
Out of the Bosch pit.
Yeah, or Calvin's or.
The Mastel pit.
Mastel pit, yeah, it's like 3 different names.
Yeah.
So.
So there's a hell of a reserve there, yet or no?
No,
Well, we've got a crushed pile, I mean, I'd have to look back at the quantities, they did it last spring, we've hauled out of there since, so we'd have to have them survey it to figure.
what's the 3-year contract we had there, so
It was about 10 years, so there's gotta be 6 or 7 years left on that probably.
Well, I haven't seen the contract.
Now, there's a new contract, cause we just crushed gravel out there a couple of years ago, so.
Well, then that would change it, but under the understanding.
Well, I think the big thing about it is just make sure that we're not graveling in the same spot all the time, cause I mean, like all winter, you guys have been kinda down in the Westfield area, right?
Different areas.
And that's where, I mean, we kind of were trucking most of the gravel down there last, I mean, I'm sure there's spots that need it, but they've gotten a lot of gravel now too.
Right, you just gotta get around different areas.
They focus just on a different area.
That was the biggest, longest stretches that needed it.
Right.
When you come up north, it's maybe a mile, I mean, not that their mile isn't any worse than that, but, I mean, what we gravelled all this year was what, 7 miles, I think, like we did with our trucks, it's cause there's nothing on there,
Mm-hmm.
so.
that Van Horst pit, I don't know, we have a timeline there too, don't we?
Yeah, there's gotta be, I don't know, I'd have to look at the contract on, but we were doing 10 to 12 years on most of them, and I know that contract came up when I was first a commissioner, I've been commissioner 6 years, so I'd say we've got at least 3 or 4 years left on that contract roughly. I'm pretty positive we were doing at least 10 on all of them.
Cause I know the discussion was we weren't gonna crush too much gravel this year, but then that was before we kinda found that gravel pit up on Main, right there, 69th and Main.
West of Hazelton, you're talking?
Yeah, west of Hazelton, like
West
that,
of Hazelton.
yeah. it'd be
Well,
west
there's
of-
just a few spots we wanted to sample, cause another one was back there behind Dave Schlittenhardt's to suit. Did you ever get back there at all?
No, cause I mean, we haven't, that's kinda been on our back burner, cause it's.
Well, and it's been mined too, so I don't know how much is back there, but it'd just be interesting to see if.
Well, we really need to scrabble down the Westfield area down there, a pit someplace.
Right, and we also need one in the center by Hazelton, and, I mean, that's, if we go to Hazelton, it's quite a ways to, like, you get in that northwest of Linton and up in that area, it gets to be a long haul from any pit where we're at. Plus, when you get down there, it gets to be kind of a long haul from any pit we have, so.
Well, I mean, the only reason I would probably advocate for graveling those areas when we do a project though is because a lot of those easily gravelable areas always end up getting gravelled by us anyway. You know, 'cause, well, that's an easy spot, go out there. And what gets left behind are the corners, like west of Westfield, northwest of Hazelton, east and west of Linton and Strasburg. You know, you get to the edges of the county where there isn't a gravel pit. I mean, even though you're paying a lot of mileage and a lot of drive time though, you're probably getting a little more efficiency out of multiple trucks and a contractor type mentality than, I mean, with our guys, it's like we're going in, we're dropping a guy off over here to get blading. Well, we don't get gravel hauling as fast as we wanted to, we're.
If you only get 2 or 3 loads out a day, what's that?
Well, or just, you know, cause something happens, or, you know, when you're only running 2 trucks and then one gets a flat tire at 1 in the afternoon and now you're not back up till 3 or 4, depending on where you're at. Where, like with the contractor type mentality, even though you're paying for more driving time, you're probably still just getting a lot more done, cause they bring more trucks, they're loading, they're not responding to other county calls, they're not going and fixing a stop sign,
Where we got other things to do.
Right, and that's where I would kinda advocate for those harder to reach places would be the ones where you probably want the contractors to go to, cause you're probably gonna just get more done than running with our. You have 2 trucks and then one guy's sick that day, so you're running with 1 truck and a loader and you're getting 7 loads that far out, where even with a contractor, you're getting 20 to 40, you know, depending on the drive,
So
so.
the payloaders move.
Well, and it just, yeah, when that's all they're doing, and like you said, not responding to other phone calls for other stuff during the day or whatever, just a little better, so. I would actually advocate for those harder to reach places to be the ones that you try and key in on, and get some, cause those are the ones that need it the worst anyway, right? Because everywhere around the gravel piles always gets gravelled first. It's easy, if you got 2 days of gravel, what do? You pick the shortest one and the easiest one off.
So how did you do that last year? Was it a week, 2 weeks, or was it by roads, or?
We just picked it ended up being like 2 weeks, and then we just found the worst roads we needed and had them come in. It was by the hour.
So you didn't do it by the roads?
No, we had it just by the hour.
Okay.
So.
Well, and the other thing we were doing is that we kinda picked a number, we were gonna be at around $180,000 is what we had to expend, so we kinda just monitored, once we had it going for a few days, we knew, like, well, we're spending X amount of days, we could probably get another 4 days out of them, and then that's when we decided, well, where do we wanna go, and then that's kinda how I remember doing it last year was, but we probably should put something together and probably get a few people maybe bid on it, cause we can probably get a little more competitive. Last year we did it so late, nobody was really interested, but.
Right, and, well, I've actually talked to, there was a different county that they bid it out in January, and they didn't get anybody to bid on their gravel mowing, not one,
Wow.
so.
Cause I know, like.
I mean, we might be able to fit it in, cause we're right at this, I mean, we probably can have it ready for bid next month. We're probably right in that kind of that sweet spot where the contractors are they're either full and not gonna bid on it, or they got just a little bit left on their plate and they can fit us in.
Have you talked to Shabinsky?
Not this year yet, no. He wanted to sell some gravel from the down south, but that's the only conversation I've had with him this year. Do we want to put like a semi number? I mean, we can go out and we can get the quantities, like the cubic yards or the tons we wanna put down, but it might be $400,000 worth of gravel, and then if we bid all that and it ends up being 400,000 and we don't wanna do that, then we're back at the drawing board. Do we wanna shoot for like, especially since we're taking it out of the, more than likely it'll have to come out of the permit fund, do we wanna set it like roughly 200,000, or? It's tough to do that too, cause if any of the contractors listen to this, they're just gonna bid it at 200,000.
Well, can't you do it in segments? Bid this section, bid this section?
We can break it down like
Break it
that if
down
we
into
want, but
increments?
yeah, I mean, we can, just,
At least you
that's
know,
what you wanna do, and
they can bid it on mileage.
Well, I guess the conversation would be last year was, I think, a pretty good success. We were right around that $200,000 mark, if I remember right, in the high 180s or something. I would say that's a pretty good number to go off of and kind of just repeat that again, and I don't, you can try and bid, if you wanna put some kind of a quantity to that number, like if you think you can get X amount of miles done with that in a specific area, and then see what happens. If nobody bids it, then we might just have to look for another hourly type guy. I mean, the hourly thing worked nice, the trouble is you always have that bid requirement where you're kinda limited to, which we're kind of under that requirement anyway, because the size project we wanna do is not really meeting that requirement, so I just feel like the bid process is the fairest way and best way to do it, but if you don't get a bid, then the other thing to do would be to just start reaching out to some contractors and see if someone wants to bid it by the hour and try and do that again, and we can just try and mold it to our budgeted number like we did last year, I guess, or try.
Is that the common way that they bid by the hour?
No, that's the way we hired it when we just wanted to do it, cause there was no way to.
that, and then I talked to, when we were looking for those contractors, they were like, even if we bid them, they're gonna bid at what they want for their truck an hour.
Right.
Because they're not supplying the loader, they're not supplying the fuel, they're not supplying the gravel, all they're supplying is the truck, so they're gonna give you, okay, this is what, that's probably the easiest way to really do it is, I just buy the hour, so they're gonna figure out.
How many hours they're gonna work, how many days they're gonna work?
Right, I mean, that's what it's costing them to run their truck, and their driver, and so, like the other couple that I talked to, they said pretty much they'd be bidding it at $150 an hour anyway, so. Not saying all of them do that, and I think we should, let's bid it out, and that way, with that number, it kinda gives me of like where we can kinda go with segments of road, If we can get this much done in that price range, that's just our thing. If we go a little bit more and it ends up being a little cheaper, great, so kinda gives us, cause I know one of them, they said they just bid out a certain quantity of gravel in a certain area and then have them bid it that way.
Well, because I would use last year's project as kind of a footprint.
Right.
And just try and take that same footprint and put it in another part of the county,
Right.
relatively close to a gravel pit like that, like if it was a 30-mile trip, try and go 30, 40
Right.
miles around the Wobon pit or the Mastel pit.
Well, I think that worked good last year, you had a couple out of here and a couple out of there, right, so that.
Well, we were splitting the pits and stuff.
Well, I think the best thing to do is maybe come with a couple different options, maybe bid 3 different areas and see which one maybe turns out the best, that might make a decision for you. Like if you know you gotta go east of Braddock, and you gotta go east of Linton, and you gotta go east of Hague, or so, whatever, pick a few different spots out of a few different pits, put a, you know, whatever, square an area off or something, and just go, what do you think you can put it out for bids, and maybe some guys will just bid it to a scenario where you're like, okay, that was the most competitive one, maybe we'll go in that area, I mean.
So you flag it then, kinda, right, to measure it out, the
Yeah.
distance?
Yep,
Okay, and then they feed off of that.
right.
I would just use a comparable, last year as a comparable and try and put another project together like that.
Right.
Similar to it, I'd say roughly the same price, but right in that $150,000 to $200,000 range. And see what we can get. Maybe we won't get as much as we got last year, maybe we'll get more.
Okay, yeah, well, we can do
Unless
that.
somebody else has a different agreement with that. Right. It seems to be, I mean, that worked great last year,
We aren't gonna get it all correct with 2 trucks.
No.
No, I mean, we're,
No, I
but,
think,
yeah, I mean, eventually we'll catch up. I mean, we're gonna go into pulling some shoulders and trying to reclaim gravel that's already there, and that's gonna, you know, when you just gravel everything, you just kinda throwing good money at bad spot. So we're gonna try to pull some more shoulders this year, and
shape some other spots.
shape some stuff up, and like, it's always gonna be on that federal aid road out of Strasburg there, there's a couple miles there that got really bad and wide.
To what, to the west?
Yeah.
The one going down to Pollock there too, they're kinda complaining quite a bit there.
Union Drive,
Yeah.
that, or 8 Mile Road, or
Yeah.
Union Drive, or
Yeah.
Setting
Yeah, but
Main.
they did that just a few years ago going west.
Well, in different spots, they didn't do the whole road, like, we're gonna pick a
Just
different
from a
spot.
mile west, I think, all the way out to Gecko, they did it, didn't
Yeah, I believe so, we're gonna go further west
West.
this time.
they? See, and then a good portion, that's a fairly new road. When was that built? On the second curve going west? You gotta be on the board, weren't you?
Second curve.
I don't think so.
All the way out to 1804.
Oh, Mount my Pollock, you mean?
No, on the one west of Stamford. When was that rebuilt? From
Just a few years
1804?
ago, well, no, well, right off the mile, we kinda redid that a little.
Yeah, you did.
Off the mile, yeah.
Yeah.
All the way
Well,
out to Mylene Zocker, a little bit farther.
Put that one out there, that's been a long time, I don't think I've been on the board.
No, that one, yeah, I was gonna say, that wasn't anything we did, that was
That's gotta be within 10 years.
probably, I mean,
Isn't
within
it?
close to it.
On the second curve, I think from the second curve to the first curve going west, that whole road was rebuilt
It was,
by
yeah.
Arlen Bergen and those guys.
But I don't.
That was in 2 phases.
That was a long time.
That might have been during that surge funding deal when they redid the Tenvick roads and stuff too, because that was funding that you could only use on federal aid when the state, that would have been like 08 or 10 or something like that.
Was it that long back?
It's probably been, cause I think they did that road the same, they did the Hazelton road, they did the Tenvick road, west of Hazelton, west of Tenvick, and I think that road, and that was probably in like 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit sooner, but that was part of that surge fund,
Yeah.
because
I
that was the big
I was still-
argument.
I was still-
You were on the board too, cause remember, there was a dozen roads the county wanted to redo, and they said, no, you can only use it on the CFC roads, so
Right.
everybody was mad, they're like, why are you rebuilding the only roads that aren't that bad? Well, that was the only way to use that fund.
Exactly.
So that was probably what you're talking about then.
Because that was like an upgrade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was probably 10 years ago there though.
Okay, so in your,
Oh, a few years is a dangerous thing to say.
we'll move forward.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so in your packets, we had 2 motor graders that we needed to bid out because of warranty. There was a scheduling conflict with one of them, so that's why we opened them yesterday. That's why you're seeing it, that's why they're not here today. They said if you have any questions, we can feel free to try to call them. All parties were there when they were open, so it was they were right there, so these are the numbers they come in at.
So you're looking at 2?
Right, we have 2 that we extended warrantied on,
Or that you talked about. Ron.
yeah, we have about 700 hours till they go off of warranty, so. Roughly hopefully when these would show up, those would be coming right off the warranty. I mean, obviously not having a bad winter really saved us on that. And we kinda knew that going in, when we extended those warranties, we figured we'd push it as close to the expiration of the warranty, so. And then those are the trade-in values of the two that were be trading in. You can see that one more.
No, Butler can never get close anymore, huh? Every year.
Well, they're not that far off.
I'd say they're almost even, because from the looks, to me, it looks like Caterpillar is gonna be doing about 20,000 better on trade-in, and that's they're about 17,000, 18,000 different on the blades.
So if you trade in, let me see here, well, I don't have it didn't correlate over here on the serial number, so, which I'm guessing it'd be this one, so. Let's see, hold on a second, just give me.
That premium circle, is that a big deal?
It's a pretty good feature. I mean, it's not a make or break the feature, but it's well worth it. It's fully sealed underneath there, zero shim. You pretty much grease it every 50 hours and that's it. That's all you do to it. From what I understand, they took an excavator bearing and made that into a circle now, so we've been impressed with it, and a lot of other people that have gone with it have been impressed. So the first one is $6,850 difference between Cat and John Deere. And the second one is $7,250 difference between the two, in John Deere's favor. John Deere would be $6,850 less.
Same size machines.
Yep, same horsepower, same specs, they had to build it off the same specs.
Okay, so Cat last year they were way higher.
2 years ago, I think Cat was like 80,000 difference on one blade, now it's like 10,000.
I mean,
It's pretty much, I mean.
it came a little closer now, but.
And then
What's item A? Okay, so that's the blade.
Quote item A is the motor grader and the wing.
Oh.
And the wing,
Yeah.
so you get rid of the used wings?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so it really comes down to just the grand total, cause I mean, if you look at the buybacks in the back, obviously Weather has a little bit better buyback, you know, but that's guaranteed, you know, for the 7 year or 75.
Alright, so if you would buy 2 Cats versus 2 Deers, with the trade-ins and everything, it would be $14,000 more to buy 2 Cats
Right,
than it would be to buy 2 Deers. But then you also look at the buyback on the back, and that's where Caterpillar's 30,000 ahead, so in a way, if you would play that game, you'd actually, Butler would technically put you $15,000 ahead.
well, they would be,
Times 2, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So it'd even be more, it'd be like basically a $30,000 difference where you'd be, I mean, the one thing I'll give, I mean, both of them credit especially, but one thing about Butler, they're higher on the buyback, and that's 7 years out, that's asking a lot to, you know, for them to get, I mean, the odds are favorable the market will hold, and Butler obviously knows their market too, but it's a pretty decent buyback on it, but you're obviously paying more for them, so in the end, it is what it is, but, I mean, when you put all that together,
What about the warranty?
they're both
the same, we spec it the same, so they.
7 years,
So one doesn't give
$7,500.
you more than the other?
Nope, we spec it all the same.
7 years, 7,500 hours is the bid request on that, so.
Who would be using these?
It'd be Al and Cody's.
So which one are they using now?
They're both using Cats now,
Oh, they're both using Cats.
so
Which is friendlier to use? I mean, comparing John Deere to IH, John Deere Shine. Is it?
I don't know if Like, I have my I have my personal opinion, but that doesn't
Mean anything.
mean anything.
Why don't you just ask Don what he thinks about deer versus
That
cow?
don't mean anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, a lot of it comes to become operator preference.
That's what I was getting at, some guys.
And then we look at it as the service end of it, like what kind of service we're getting out of it, and.
So who has better service?
Oh, jeez, guys, you really.
You better be careful of that.
Right, well, I mean,
What about
I'm
the-
not lying.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had better service with RDO than with Butler. I mean, we've had some issues with Butler. They seem to be getting a little bit better. I mean, new change in leadership down there and stuff like that. I mean, it takes one bad apple to sour your mouth, and then it takes a long time to get that taste out of your mouth. They seem to be getting slightly better, but, I mean.
They'll come around, and they'll come.
Well, I'll advocate for one thing when it comes to this. There's 2 cats going in by guys that I know have been running cats. Which, as somebody who operates equipment, you tend to have a preference once you're running something.
You do.
If you're talking 20-30% difference, the guy might have to learn to wear a different hat. When you're in that couple percent, you're splitting hairs over $20,000 over 7 years, 6 years, that's pretty minuscule. So now it comes down to, if the guy that likes his blade is better in that blade, that, you know, and in my opinion, if you put these numbers together the way you put them, the Caterpillar's as good or a better deal than the deer on this, and I know that the deer was good for a long time because they bought a bunch of blades ahead of time. We had talked about that, like right around COVID or whatever, RDO was stocked up with blades and we're very competitive, where Butler was a little behind in the lead times and everything, so. Kinda seems like that's coming back to a more competitive market, so I know deer always was cheaper there for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they're
Then it kinda seems like it's back into that, but I know we have 5 deer blades now and 3 cat.
Oh, I'm gonna have to, give me a second, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six John Deeres and, 3 cats.
Right, well, cause of the sparrow too, then, so my fear is when it comes to the county stuff, is getting too heavy into one brand, maybe, because all of a sudden they have some shortages. RDU has some staffing problems, and next thing you know, you're like, oh my god, our whole fleet's like that, where if you keep it 50-50, at least you probably feel like half your fleet's going, that's just an opinion.
These guys have a preference, even though they're running cats, they want a cat?
Oh, I'm pretty sure if you cut them, they'd bleed cat.
Yeah, there's
Their preference would be a cat more.
yeah.
Just-
And sometimes
Only
it
how
does
it
make a
is.
difference, when somebody's used to running a machine.
Yeah.
Especially when they had a lot of years in it already, they prefer to stay with that way.
And if you guys would like to have a discussion off camera, then I'll tell
I would
you.
wanna make sure you get used to it.
No, if I had to go international or something, it'd be tough to do too, you know what I mean?
You, international?
Well, I mean,
You even paint your Chevy pickups John Deere green.
Okay, one
Yeah,
international.
no. I guess in my opinion, like them years ago when we were at $80,000-$90,000 difference,
Yeah,
that's
that was way
too big
greater.
of a chasm. When you're talking a few percent over the course of 5 years, I think
This is a 5-year lease.
7.
Well,
Well,
7, we pay them off, we pay them off in 5, but we run them out 7 years, $7,500.
because they're on warranty, so you get them 2 years, you're essentially paying it off, then you have 2 years of warranty, payment-free blade. It's kinda how we've been running it, so.
Just looking at the numbers, I lean towards cat.
It seems to me like cats should be better.
Yeah, I would go with it.
And especially since they're both cats, and the guys are cat operators. Yeah. I mean, it's not like we're overspending money to keep guys in a cat, so.
Ocean.
I'll make a motion to go with the 2 cats.
Commissioner Holm makes a motion to purchase the 2 cat operators, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion? We budgeted for 2 machines, right, Marlis?
I believe so.
Yeah, so that's not really an issue.
Well, then it'll actually fall on next year's budget, right? We will budget for next year with these because the trade-in goes towards your first payment, but most of these probably aren't gonna come till, the delivery date on one of them was, well, I think, actually Butler's was end of the year. I mean, it could show up earlier, but they figured that's we're trying to shoot for that right warranty window, so it'd be delivered right.
So this is not that big machine, is it?
No,
No, these are just 140s.
Do they like them big ones?
The mine loves them, I guess.
Well, it's to be to an operator's mindset again. You think it's a bigger machine, so you think it's doing more, but in reality, is it? I mean, they do like the little bit bigger, but I don't think we need to have all big ones. I mean, these are just a small, like this, the ones we bid will be 150s instead of 160s.
Oh, like for pulling up roads now and stuff?
I mean, we're talking like, I'd have to look at their spec again, but we're talking maybe like 20 horsepower and maybe 1,000 pounds difference.
I thought it was like
Is that all they-
1,800.
It's not a
It's
lot.
not that much bigger, but I mean, they're,
But sometimes, like you guys sometimes that 30 horsepower makes a difference, you know? When you're demanding it makes a difference.
I
But
know-
how often are you demanding for all that horsepower?
I know last winter, cause Ellington was running that 160, and he said he noticed the weight when he was pushing snow, though, like it felt like, but obviously too, I mean, I know, cause I think Gunner's running the 872 out of Braddock, and he really didn't seem to notice a difference at all.
Well, can't you throw weights on the axle? Like hang weights with a bar and hang weights on the back of that machine or no? Does anybody do that or not?
No, because if you talk to some of the guys, like in that field, they're like, you're already asking a lot of these machines by the time you hang a wing, you hang a plow, and you hang this.
Yeah.
He's like, then you start adding more weight, and then you just, I mean, it's like,
I didn't know.
inertia, the heavier it is, the faster you go, and then it's, you know.
There's no wheel weights or nothing on
Good. Oh, yeah, there's not a huge difference between the size, like, I mean, we're talking like 30
They're
horsepower.
a little bit taller too, right, but not.
No, I pretty same.
I thought they were supposed to be better for pulling up ditches and stuff.
Well, I mean, you have 30 more horsepower when you demand it. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You weigh a little heavier, sometimes it's soft, so the heavier you are, the heavier you are, you sink a little bit more. But then you have that extra 30 horsepower.
Some with the new style rubber that they were talking about, that it's supposed to be so much better for traction.
Yeah, we spec them out with the Michelin, Snow Pro tires. All our machines are going to that. So, the last, like even the last 160 cat we ordered has those Michelin Snow.
You like?
Yeah, I mean, for snow, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, I mean, and then winters, or summertime, you know.
Well, I'm sure that bigger machine's tougher on fuel, isn't it?
Well, actually, the idea was it was supposed to be more efficient because of the power, but that's to be determined, because.
Right, I mean, it's minuscule if anything, I mean, we're not like 50 gallons over here and 10 over here, it's, you know,
Probably a gallon or two a day.
55 and 53.
They were supposed to be more efficient because you're technically, with the power, you're on them as hard, you know,
And that depends on the operator too, some will gear up and not run as high RPMs, and then some will gear down and run higher RPMs.
what route they have, how many hills they have.
Yeah, it's-
Everything kind of-
Horsepower's a big item with depth.
Yeah.
Right, well, we're waiting until they get to that 830 horsepower, like John Deere's 9R just did. They doesn't have that, right?
They do not.
When is yours getting delivered?
Mine. I can't afford one.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a
Okay,
$4
well,
million
we
machine, but-
steer this back on course here. Is there any more discussion on the, motion to purchase 2 blades from Caterpillar? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Is this where I'm supposed to say nay?
You don't want the John Deere people mad at you.
No, aye.
Okay. Motion approved, so you can, award the bids to Caterpillar.
Okay, I'll let them know today then, so they can get whatever paperwork done.
Something else that came up was the, if you have any update on the, bridge, down by the Nassau pit, the bridge that we're having replaced, is it?
No, I guess I don't have any updates. I can talk with Wold. I know that the last time I heard, some funding got pushed back, so it was.
So what about the old bridge? Some people had asked about the old bridge. Can the farmers buy that back there?
We had that window of opportunity open.
Nobody stepped up.
And nobody stepped up. Now, where we can go from here, that would be more of the engineers, and then
They won't do it because of liability.
And then maybe we'd have to talk to the state's attorney and see where we go with it. I can definitely talk to Wool and see where we're at,
Cause the question, or two would maybe be like salvaging the timbers and things like that, cause I mean, them timbers are pretty new and stuff.
Well, I mean, if they could sell it the way it is, what they can get for it, or.
Sell it as a complete bridge. Cause yeah, like I said, I thought we had
I think we went through
we
that
put that in
process.
paper and all that stuff, and I don't think.
Before we talk too much about it, let me talk to him and then I can bring it back next meeting.
Okay.
I can get an update and then bring it back next.
Yeah, find out if some farmers wanted to buy that, if they could still buy it, or.
That has to go on bids then, or not? That material off that bridge, does that have to go out on bids or what?
Well, I'm not sure where we're going with this, because nobody adopted it, so does it just get scrapped? Does the county have the right to do with what it wants now, if we want the timbers off it? I'm not 100% sure, so let me check into it and I'll have an update.
There'd be some awful good material in there, wouldn't there?
Well, them timbers.
The timbers aren't very old, and that's what's actually got it,
Keep them.
5 years old.
that's why it was kind of awarded, is because we were doing some maintenance to it, and then that's, so. Kind of a double-edged sword, if you wouldn't have did it, you probably wouldn't get the bridge replaced, but you redid it, and now you're getting the bridge.
Well, if you could salvage them timbers to put on another project or something.
Right.
Because I would say that was about 30,000 in timbers, I think, if I remember right, I mean, they're expensive and they're big.
Yeah,